Good morning, everyone. We would like to invite you for the Y National Masoom Summit happening today. And to start with that, I would like to invite Mr. Dilip Krishna, who is the National Chairman of Young Indians. Dilip, please.
Good morning. Um, Respected Sri Sanjeev Kumar Chedda sir, thank you so much for your time. It really means a lot to us with your presence here. Other dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, all the eminent thought leaders who are coming here for this meaningful cause. A warm welcome and thank you so much for giving your time for supporting us for this very, very, very meaningful cause. Why I today is 65 chapters. Why I was born in the year 2002, and today we are grown as 65 strong chapters across 65 cities, with 6,500 young entrepreneurs as primary members who are in the age group of 21 to 40. And we also have three main key stakeholders. One is the Talar, which is the school students. We have an umbrella of 17 lakh school students under our portfolio. We have 178 Yuva institutions where we have a MOU with them, which contributes around lakh and 78,000 Yuva students who are part of our umbrella. And also we have AICT, which is our uh, partner. So which means we have reached around 9,500 institutions. And we have also adopted around 268 rural villages. Now, why am I saying this? YI works with the youth of the country. The whole objective of having this youth under our portfolio is that we have only three core objectives in our mind. One, developing responsible youth for the nation, building youth leadership, and creating a platform to listen to the voice of the youth. And this is our primary objective as to why YI was started. And how we do it is that we drive all our nation building initiatives through this youth. So we work on 5 projects, which is Project Masoom, which is there why we are today. I'll speak a little bit more about it later. Second is road safety. Third is health. Fourth is accessibility. And the fifth is climate change. These are the 5 key projects and 2 initiatives, which is entrepreneurship and innovation. So these are our 5 key projects, 2 initiatives, which we drive through the stakeholders so that we are able to develop them as responsible youth for the nation, build youth leadership, and create a platform to listen to the voice of the youth. So with that context, today, Masoom is being a project which is extremely, extremely close to our heart. The genesis of Masoom is we started this down south in Trichy. One of our chapter leader came up with the thought saying that we are doing so much to the nation. What are we doing for the children? If we don't secure our children, because the research goes to prove 6 out of 10 children are abused some way or the other. And if we are not going to secure the children, I still remember Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan of Cognizant, when he addressed one of the gatherings in Chennai, he made a fantastic statement. He said, an abused child is a lost citizen to the nation. And if we are not going to work on that, who else, how are we going to build a strong nation to ourselves? And that's why Project Masoom is extremely, extremely close to our heart. It started as a name Komal, and then we brought it to national in the name of Masoom. And today, in the last few years, we have impacted millions of lives. I think Sangeeta is going to touch on that. I'm not going to speak about that. But I will share, if today as a national chair, if I'm standing here today, I started my journey in YI in 2009. I was a chapter chair in Chennai in 2016, 17. And it's the Masoom project which is making me stand here. When we were doing an awareness session in a school along with Child Helpline, and we were doing an awareness on good touch and bad touch, there's the tears rolling down a cheek of a young boy. And when we pulled him aside and asked him about what's happening, he spoke about what he is going through with his Ottoman. Thanks to Child Helpline, we handed over to him and we found a solution to it. And the smile in the child's face made it, that smile is what makes me stand here. So that's the impact of the cause. Sir, Masoom Summit is something which we have been doing year on year, and Masoom Week is in the month of November. Um, in the year 2020, when the COVID was there and when everything was digital, why I didn't stop doing Masoom Summit? We did a virtual summit. In one of the summits, we had five children on the dais, five college students, two guys, two young boys, and four young girls, dynamic girls, sitting there and sharing, saying that what should they do to ensure child safety in our country? What should the teachers do to ensure child safety in the country? What should the parents do? What should the society do to ensure child safety in our country? And every single child did lots of research, came and presented brilliant thoughts about what each stakeholder has to do. And I still remember one young girl from Delhi, I don't want to mention her name. She came up and shared some fantastic insights, everything workable insights. But at the end, she made one statement. She said, if you all are wondering how I'm able to come up with this kind of workable solutions, it's because I'm a victim of child sexual abuse, and why has taught me not to feel ashamed about it. I think that one statement is a testimony for a rewarding statement for us, because I think that is why we had Madam Smriti Irani addressing us in many gatherings of YI, especially with Masoom. She never misses it. When she was there in one of the virtual summit, she went back and tweeted saying that YI is an enterprise with empathy. And that was a statement, proving saying that what YI is doing. And I would also like to add saying that we are also an enterprise with compassion. We just don't talk about it, but we also act on it. And last year, we achieved the Guinness Book of World Record in Jaipur, impacting lives of 7,500 students in one umbrella. And why holds the Guinness Book of World Record for impacting maximum life of students. So Masoom is something very close. We started with digital physical abuse, good touch and bad touch, but today it's much more alarming, which is digital abuse. Every third click, a child reaches to a not so good site. You know, Allied families have some time to spend with the children, but that's only hardly 2 to 3%. I don't know even they have time to spend with the children. What about the maximum 96% of the people, where families are running to pillar to post to make the ends meet? Where do they have time to see what the child is going through? I think we have a huge responsibility on digital safety too. I'm so happy that Sangeeta, Pratik, and the team has taken that also as an aspect, saying that how do we? It's not enough we teach good touch, bad touch. It's time to teach good content and bad content. And this year, we why always believe that it's not enough we drive excellence in the projects. We always believe if YI has to become significant in this particular cause, meaningful collaborations are the key. Thank you so much to Smriti ma'am for her support. Sir, Mr. Sanjeev Chadha sir is here. Thanks for their support, because without this government support, we are not going to be able to meet impact lives. And this year we started a very interesting initiative called the sports, because any project, any initiative, if it has to reach out to the grassroots level, there should be an emotion towards it. And in our country, sports is an emotion. In sports, cricket is an emotion. So we said we'll start cricket this year. We launched cricket in all the 65 chapters. And we said every chapter will play sport for a cause. And we are, for operation regions, YI is divided into 6 regions. So now 6 regional matches happened. Now 6 regional winners have come up. These regional winners are going to come to Chennai on 20th December to play the semi-finals and the finals. And we call this cup the Masoom Cup. And the most important is that when we said, how can we really scale this up? We were, again, coming back to collaboration. Only meaningful collaborations can make this happen. So we went back, spoke to Chennai Super Kings, saying that, sir, you guys are, if cricket is an emotion, CSK is a pride for the entire nation. And can CSK join us for the cause? Thanks to Mr. Kashi Vishwanathan. Thanks to Ms. Rupa, the chairman of India Cements. The moment we went and spoke about the project, they said, we will ensure the CSK team plays one match with YI. And that match is going to happen on 20th of December. And they said, we will take this cost. We will take this cost in all our handles. We will ensure most of our players speak about this cause, because unless and until we reach the message through them, because law is very strong, Today, Chada sir was talking about so many fantastic initiatives. Unless and until this message reaches the end person at the grassroots level, the change cannot happen. And those kind of meaningful collaborations is only going to happen. With that note, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we warmly welcome you on 20th of December to come and witness that match with YI and the men in yellow, who is going to play for a cause in Chennai, for the Masoom, and take this Masoom to a meaningful reach. So, with that note, once again, thank you so much for this August gathering. Thank you so much for making your time. Thank you so much for all the thought leaders who have come here to share your knowledge, your wisdom, to make this cause more and more meaningful. YI is looking for meaningful collaboration, and sir, we are looking for a meaningful collaboration in the ministry level to take this cause to the every single household and make a meaningful difference in the lives of the youth, so that we can build a stronger future for our nation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dilip, for the warm welcome. And it's always a pleasure to hear Dilip with so much of passion. Namaste and good morning to all of you here. It's so good to see bright faces on a Saturday morning. Thank you. It's my privilege here to address this gathering and welcome you all for the fourth annual Masoom Summit. It's our honor to have you, esteemed guest, Mr. Sanjeev Kumar Chadda, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Women and Child Development, as our chief guest. Welcome, sir. As Dilip mentioned, Sri Chatterjee has worked in state and central levels on social development and empowerment of rural communities. We believe that in his passion for sustainable natural development, we can very well relate to how his interest in building a safer nation for our children as well, and his interest in the Masoom project. His Masoom, and sir, really looking forward to hearing from you on the latest developments of the ministry. It is amazing to have with us Mr. Dilip Krishna, National Chairman YI, who's a leader with the bespoke enthusiasm for nationalism and leadership. You've heard him. His thoughts and his plans for YI has taken us this year to multifold. Ms. Kavita Kohli, National Head, YI, who is the backbone of YI and YI framework, and all the work that YI does. Together with this duo, with what for Masoom, they have done miracles this year. Thank you so much. What an exceptional audience we have here today. Earlier, a few months back, when we decided that we will do the Masoom Summit in Delhi, and we would like to have an audience with multiple stakeholders who would be from school teachers to Yuva college students and young children whom we want to address. And with the local chapter support, we were able to bring all of you here to talk about Masoom. And hopefully, we believe that by the end of this half a day summit, you will know more about what we are trying to do here and be willing to part of YI's Masoom cause. Also, we have here Mr. Pratik with as a co-chair for Masoom YI nationally. Together this year, we have done really good work with our team here with the nationally ORMs as well. It's nice to have all of you here. Thank you. And we also have our YI members who are traveled from across the country, who we would like to call as YI Masoom warriors. Some of you might know here that YI is a chapter driven organization. What that means is that, as Dilip mentioned, we are present in 65 cities, and all the work that we do are at the city level. The members in each of the cities pick up the causes and drive awareness, train the teachers, go to schools, meet kids, and collaborate with partner organizations. And that is the kind of work we bring nationally and highlight, and as our YI as an organization of significance. And it is truly a pleasure to have our YI members in here in the audience as well, right? So I would like to play a small video which will drive what I'm trying to say when we are an organization of significance and we collectively drive a cause like Masoom. Can we have the Masoom video played, please? Thank you. So it's been a 10 years of impactful journey for Masoom. And over the years, with multiple cities, we were able to create touch, safely touch, pun intended, millions of children's lives and build a capacity of trainers who would actually go back and train the students. So it is our pleasure to continue this journey with all of you here as well. This video was put together by YI Vishakhapatnam team from the state of Andhra Pradesh. We would like to thank the team as well for this beautiful video. As we all try to make a difference and make a meaningful difference, like how Dilip mentioned, we wonder how we do it. Is that all we are doing rightly? And Dilip had few stories to tell. Why, like our YI traders go to school and interact with the children, we do hear a lot of stories, and that's what keeps us going to keep working with this on this cause. One of the recently in the last month, one of the incidents that happened is that during our session with the school children on safe and unsafe touch, one 8-year-old girl from YI Puducherry came and talked about what's happening with her, and she went back to her parents and also talked about this is not this is happening with me, and today I came to know about this is wrong. This should not be happening with me. And she, in fact, faced her abuser as well boldly. So the parents took the complaint legally and filed a complaint. And when we heard back about it, we feel like this is what we really want to make a change. And all of the work that we are trying to do makes a difference, in a little girl's life and in little boys' lives as well. And they will come back and become powerful youth and make a difference as leaders in this country. So we are really proud of the kind of work that we do under Masoom. And Dilip also mentioned about we keep doing this thing about physical abuse, which happens on safe and unsafe touch. And in the last couple of years, we all know that COVID has changed our lives and how we interact. And being adults, we also struggle in the digital space sometimes. We get confused ourselves, and we don't have the time when we how much time we do spend with our children. We have to divide our time, to work on their studies, or what do we do? And they do have time and access to digital space. So we said, how do we create a difference in safe content and unsafe content. So this year we were able to put together digital safety modules, which we are calling it as Digilante modules, and under which there is a module where we'll go to school children and talk about safe content and unsafe content. It is an introduction module. We would like to launch it today in the presence of Mr. Chaddaji. And then we also have created an animation video, because you know that the videos are the thing of the age, right? And even adults want to see videos. And what better way to address the cause through a video? And that's how an animation video came. We would like to launch that as well. And we have among us today YI Trivandrum team, who have put together a beautiful rhyme, which is we call as Masoom rhyme, which we would like to launch it as well. So could you play the Masoom rhyme, please?
I know what's safe touch, and I know what is unsafe touch. For our body, unsafe
broader number. So we will hear from him on that as well. So, now we would like to launch the Vigilante module. So we would like to again recognize the Wyatt Trivandrum team. Can you stand up, please? They are in the crowd. Yes, they are here. A round of applause for them. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you all for gathering here. With the Vigilante modules launched, we would like to take these content with the animation video here to multiple cities in the country. Can we play the animation video, please?
Hey there, curious minds! Today we are diving into a fascinating world, the internet. It's like a huge playground filled with information, games, and places to explore. But just like in the real world, there are some things we need to know to stay safe and have a blast online. Let's understand what internet is all about. The internet is like a magical portal that connects people all around the world. It's not good or bad by itself. It's what we do with it that matters. Think of it as a treasure chest full of possibilities. You can chat with your friends, use cool social media apps, watch funny videos on YouTube, send emails, do school projects, play awesome games, and so much more. Let us learn how to stay safe online. Just like crossing the road safely, we need to be careful when using the internet. Here are some important things to know. The internet is like a big public park. Anyone can visit, but we need to be careful because everyone can see what we do. Let me tell you about the types of online dangers. While most people online are friendly, there are some who might want to harm us. It's important to be smart and safe online. Cyberbullying mean messages from people online. Cyber grooming, strangers pretending to be friends. Sharing private content. Do not share personal details. Phishing, wishing, and more. Tricky hooks to steal your information. Downloading unsafe content. Accidentally getting harmful software or app on your devices. We need to be aware of the cyber bullies. Just like in real world, there are bullies online too. They might say mean things that makes you feel sad. Remember, don't reply to mean messages. Show it to a grown-up you trust. Block the bully and tell your friends for support. If your friend is bullied, be kind and help them. Be careful if someone online asks personal details, wants to keep things secret, or makes you uncomfortable. Tell a grown-up. Bad people might trick you into sharing private information. Don't click on strange links or share secrets. These are like sneaky viruses for your devices. Be cautious with downloads. Online safety also includes protecting yourself from serious issues like child sexual abuse material. Do you know what is child sexual abuse material? All of you remember learning about private parts. Any photo or video or person showing private parts of children is child sexual abuse material. Making, seeing, sharing of such photos or videos is punishable under law. Children under 18 in India are protected by Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. If you ever come across anything that makes you uncomfortable or worried, always reach out to a trusted adult for help. Learn how to protect your privacy. Think before you share things online. Pictures or information you post can be seen by many, even strangers. Be smart with what you show and tell. It's cool to connect with family, teachers, and real friends online. But don't talk to strangers. You would not talk to strangers at the park, right? If something feels wrong, talk to a trusted adult like parents, teachers, YI trainers. You are never alone. There are helplines and websites to keep you safe like POXO website www.poxo.ncpcrweb.in and cybercrime website www.cybercrime.gov.in. You can also dial 1098 or 112. Remember, the internet is like a big playground. It's super fun, but we need to be cautious. By following these tips, you can explore the digital world while staying safe. Stay smart and stay safe, little explorers. Let's recap all that we learned today. How to keep yourself safe online. Safeguarding yourself from mean messages. Protecting your personal information. Avoid downloading unsafe content. How to register a complaint on cybercrime and POXO websites. Knowing the helpline number for assistance. Being smart and staying safe online.
We would be playing in schools and we would be sharing among parents to be shown to kids as well. We would like to take the impact on creating a digital safe space for children, not just in Indian children, across globally as well. With that, I conclude my remarks and I would like to welcome Mr. Shadda ji for his speech. Thank you.
Good morning to you all. So let me first thank the YI team for inviting me to this very important event. So esteemed National Chairman Dilip Krishna ji, Sangeeta ji, Kavita ji, who basically got in touch with my office and invited me, and of course Pratik and young leaders from different parts of the country. I will also welcome all of you to this event. Let me first put on record my appreciation, deep appreciation for the kind of work which has been done by YI team for over now past almost 10 years. Yes. This is first time in my career I'm working in a social sector. I've been working with the environment, climate change, agriculture, horticulture, defense, health. So all those teams and agriculture marketing, cooperatives. I worked last 15, 20 years. But first time I'm working on issues. But my parent state is Odisha. So I was working once upon a time as a commissioner and tribal welfare. So Odisha having almost 15% of population, tribal population, and primitive tribes, over 60 primitive tribes also. So I got an opportunity to work for children because I used to run around 3,000 schools and over 4,000 hostels for boys and girls, and especially girls. And our chief minister, he has a mission for last 20 years. Over 20 years, he has been chief minister. So one focus he has given is that to set up dedicated hostels for tribal girls, so that the tribal girls, when they come there, everything is free, uh, all facilities, scholarships, and then the state government takes care that they become very responsible citizens. They don't drop out, and we skill them, and they pick up some job in their neighborhood areas. So that's the focus. So you can Google and see how dropout rate of tribal girls has decreased, and How they are becoming more and more. You can see national sports arena. Most of the girls coming from Odisha, tribal girls, doing so well. So that's a effort which I was also associated, and I'm proud to be associated with such a work. Uh, there was a mention on touching the lives of the children. So almost 4 months back, I was in Odisha. I joined this ministry very recently. So I had been to a very remote district. You must have heard Bolangir, which is famous for starvation, along with Kalahandi. But Kalahandi has progressed, and Bolangir is still backward. So I'd been to a child institution where orphans and poor children were kept. Girls were there. I met a girl. Uh, Her name was Payal, around 10 to 11 years old, and she didn't have arms, both the arms and legs, because when she was young, so she got electric shock, uh, and she lost her limbs, and she was unable to walk, and but still the spirit she has. So the district magistrate collector was there with me. So we interacted with her, and I donated around 25,000 rupees to the institution. They were doing very good work. But when I came back to Bhubaneswar, so we organized limbs for her, artificial limbs, and she could stand and walk. And she was there with her mother, and I went to meet her. And she presented me my portrait, which she had drawn with using her mouth, holding the brush. I'll share the picture with you. They are holding the brush in mouth and drawing the portrait. And she presented me that. I showed it to Madam Smriti Irani also. So, and she's so talented. And now she, with that artificial limbs, she went to Srinagar and participated in the child games which were being organized there. So that's what they you can change, touch one life also. That's also quite satisfying. So all the expenses were borne by the state government. Now coming to this ecosystem of child protection, child welfare, you are aware that we have around 40% population is children and young population, and uh, it's the strength the nation has, and it's our responsibility to work together with the organizations like YIE and other organizations to ensure that all children. Our Prime Minister has given us a motto that no child should be left behind. So it's a task. I think everybody has to put in their efforts together to uh, work towards achieving this. And last 8-10 years, if you see, the Juvenile Justice Act and POXO Act, they have undergone a lot of changes. It has been strengthened, and Madam Minister, she has taken personal interest. All the rules have been strengthened, and you are aware that the one of the important amendments which was made was empowering the district magistrates under JJ Act. So they take the decisions on the registration and giving license to the child welfare institutions which come up in different parts. Because earlier, what was happening, everybody was opening such institutions, and there were a lot of complaints also. The children subjected to abuse in those safe houses. So now things are streamlined, and the licenses are being given by the district magistrate or the additional district magistrate who is authorized. So there is a strict compliance under the JJ Act, which is being monitored by NCPCR also. Second important thing is on adoption. Now adoption has been streamlined. Kara, our website, Carings, that takes care, everything is online, and there is strict confidentiality, and the procedures as prescribed in the JJ Act, they are being followed. So this also, we have got appreciation from Honorable Prime Minister also for this and streamlining the whole process. But we need a lot of support from the public at large and organizations like YI and common citizens also, because adoption is a very sensitive subject. So this change is also now And then POXO penalty has been enhanced, all of you are aware. I was talking to uh, the team in the morning that now we have come out with one or two new schemes. One is child helpline now has been integrated with 112. 112 is single helpline in the country now, which is run by Home Ministry. Any call landing there is diverted to different lines. Women helpline is separate, child helpline is separate. So we have spent around 300 crores. We have, as I speak, only Himachal will be live on Monday. All states and UTs have helplines at the state level, and district helplines are being set up. Over 100 districts already have full-fledged team working 24 hours. So what is the impact? Any complaint landing there is diverted to the, and it is recorded in the system and it is attended to. So that's a big change that has taken place. I was sharing the morning, I had been to Ranchi, so there the Bihar team, they told us that how this child helpline is helping us, because they got a call on the helpline when they started. 10 children, they were being trafficked to Nepal, girls, so they were saved after this call. Immediately the team, district team got into action and they were saved. So uh, any child helpline is, any helpline is as good as it's being used. So I will request all of you, when you go back to your states, please help, and wherever at the district level, you talk to the team, district child protection team, and help them improve the services also. One scheme which we are starting is for trafficking, to checking the trafficking on the border, international border districts. Under 10 districts we have identified. So all the district magistrates in this, we will give them a corpus of fund to be available to them 24 hours. And any emergency, they can spend that money and help the affected children and rescue them, rehabilitate them. So all that expenses will be borne by the central government, 100%. Another scheme which Madam has approved and we are launching is on the POXO victims, in the serious cases. So we often read in the newspapers and the media, the rapes, gang rapes happening and all. So how to help them? SOP has been laid out under this scheme, and money, some funds are being placed with all the district magistrates so that they should not say that we don't have funds, and immediate attention is paid, legal help, whatever is required is given. One important thing you must have heard was PM Cares. So I look after that. PM Cares for Children is an initiative which our Honorable Prime Minister started during COVID. All children who lost both their parents or guardian due to COVID, they are covered under this. So it is ensured that when they become 18, they will get 10 lakh rupees and immediately 50,000 rupees and all the expenses for their studies, 4,000 rupees per month, the pocket expenses, and then additional benefits they get. So we have set up a dashboard where we monitor these children. So wherever in the states you find that such children are there and they have not been covered, they are eligible. So please ask them to apply to the district magistrate, so that under this last fortnight only 96 more children were sanctioned by because this is a scheme which is directly Prime Minister's office, they monitor it very strictly. And our aim is that all these children, we support them till they are 23. So till they are 23, starting from their uh, education, then vocational training, skilling, and then they pick up a job. So that under different schemes they are covered, and they become very responsible citizens. And on their birthday, our Madam Minister sends a message to them. We talk to them, wish them. Similarly, in the districts now, we have asked the district magistrates to call them to district level functions on Independence Day or Republic Day and recognize them. So to basically support them emotionally also, because they don't have their parents. Another important intervention which we have made is that we have increased it 3 times. The number of children, orphans, who are there, and they are being provided this. There is a scheme where we provide around 4,000 rupees every month to them. So sponsorship We call it non-institutional care sponsorship scheme. So last year the number was around 32,000 pan India, but this year we have already increased it. 379 crores we have kept. So it's over 1 lakh children now will be covered under this scheme. This is also, and anywhere you find that orphans are there and they're not being covered, please take it up with the district magistrate. There is no dearth of funds. And our scheme Mission Vatsalya is a umbrella scheme which has got different components, and our budget is over 1700 crores for that. So there is no dearth, and we have been asked that if you spend, you can take more money. So I'll request all of you. Then one more important thing I want to share is we have over 14 lakh Anganwadis, where poor children, less than 3 years, they come, preschooling, free food, we give them, supplements, and that is a basically mission which our PM has started, Poshan Abhiyan, to take care of the anemia. And then also pregnant and lactating mothers, they are also covered at 6,000 rupees they are being given. Yesterday, madam has released for over 10 lakh such women, online money has been released into their bank accounts in Mumbai. There was an event yesterday. So this is a huge, the largest initiative in the world, where over 14 lakh Anganwadis they are attending to, and now they are being upgraded, where the digital tools are being used for preschool teaching and all, and Anganwadi workers are being trained and on such a large scale. Poshan Tracker we have launched, where we are tracking on real-time basis which child is being given what. So that is a app where all the Anganwadi workers are entering. So this is a huge initiative, I think, where the organizations working in the public domain, they can also be part of that and help us in that. I will leave you today with one or two thoughts which I have. One is the empowerment of women. In all the districts, we are setting up women hubs. So women hubs are the hubs where we will have a team of professionals sitting, and all young girls who just pass out from school, college, they want to pick up some job and they want to look for some assistance under this scheme. So under one roof, they will get that advice in all such hubs. So this is a new scheme which has been launched, and these hubs are under the process of being creation. So this, I think all of you are leaders in your own right. So please be aware that each district is going to have a women empowerment hub, where all girls who need assistance and guidance, they will be provided free of cost. So this is another initiative which we have taken. One more important area where I always work also and often think over is that how do we empower our young women to take up leadership roles? There is no formal mechanism. We were talking to UNICEF team. How do we create women politicians? We have now, our Prime Minister has passed a historic act. 33% reservation will be there for women. But how do we make them capable, enhance their capabilities to take up such challenges in the rural setting? In urban setting, it is fine. But now we should not be looking at only assembly or parliament. Look at the panchayats. Look at the local urban bodies. There we want leaders, and leaders who should come from their own rural setting. That is very important. So here I would request all of you, college students, teachers here, let us now work in this direction so that I was in a very remote place in Keonjhar. There is a district. I used to take up training in that district 30 years back. So I went there and I found a young girl. She is a panchayat sarpanch. So I was checking up how come panchayat sarpanch, we have a image that must be very old person, but we had this young girl. They said that she is a management graduate. She left her corporate job. She fought election, and for last 10 years she is there unopposed. She goes even to United Nations to speak, and she is running it like a corporate. Every house, every boy, girl in the village, in our area, she remembers by name. What are their personal problems? She is solving. So that is the kind of leadership we are looking at. And let us now take a challenge that whatever constitutional provisions have been given to us, we create women leaders uh, who will take up the leadership role of the country in coming years. Child labor is another area where I think all of us should also keep our eyes and ears open. Child labor, our child helpline is there. So, anywhere you find that this, because this is a very serious offense, and we find that children being used at homes to work, that is an area. And then migration takes place, children work in different factories and all. So that is another area. And of course, my team in the Mission Vatsalya, now I've given them a task yesterday that let us come out with a status paper that where we are now so far as child marriage is concerned. After 75 years of our independence, so now where we are. So that status paper now we will work on. We have some very competent consultants who were earlier working in Kailash Satyarthi Foundation. They left and they joined us in the ministry. So I will also request all of you to please give it a thought. So after, let us now assess where we are and where we set up a roadmap in coming 10 years. How do we want to traverse on this path? So once again, I'm thankful for inviting me here. So I'm sorry for taking more time, but still I wanted to share with you on a holiday. Getting such a gathering is really commendable for the organizers, and I congratulate them and thank them for organizing such a beautiful summit where all the stakeholders are there under one roof. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, my dear students, the theme of today's summit resonates deeply with the challenges we face in today's world, where children are growing up in an increasingly digital and interconnected environment. Our today's discussions remind us that creating a safer world for our children requires collective effort and a shared commitment. It emphasizes the need for collaboration among individuals, communities, organizations, and governments to ensure the well being of our younger generation. As our upcoming sessions delve into the critical topics of child sexual awareness and digital safety, it is vital to acknowledge that these issues are interconnected. The digital age has provided the numerous opportunities, but it has also brought new risks, especially for our children. With the advent of technology, children have access to information, communication, and education resources like never before. However, they also face the potential of dangers of online exploitation, harassment, and inappropriate content. Moreover, Together for Safer Future emphasizes the significance of open dialogue and awareness. We must break the silence surrounding child sexual abuse and encourage discussions about digital safety. By raising awareness and removing the stigma associated with these topics, we can create an environment where children feel comfortable seeking help and guidance. With these few thoughts, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Sanjeev Kumar Chadha, Additional Secretary, Minister of Women and Child Development and Minority Affairs, Government of India, for taking out time out of their busy schedule and sharing their thoughts of knowledge and his important subject. Last but not the least, I would like to acknowledge the youth, the future change makers, who are reasons we are gathered here today. Your enthusiasm, curiosity, and determination to make a world a safer place for children is inspiring. And we hope to help you leave the summit the knowledge and motivation to continue our efforts. I would also like to thank Delhi chapter and Noida chapter for their continuous support for helping us to get the things done in the city. Plus, I would also like to thank the entire secretariat, Kavita Madam, Sandeep, Tushar, Mayank, for being here and supporting us with the summit. Now, I would like to call the Trivandrum team to have a group, to have a picture with Mr. Chadda. Can I have a Trivandrum team, please? Sandeep, can we have a video in the background over there, please? Yes. Trivandrum video, Masoom, rhyme.
I know what's safe touch, and I know what is unsafe touch. For our body, unsafe zones are 4 in number, none should touch. Except mommy, daddy, or my dog. If anyone touches unsafe zones, they are 4 things I will do. Loudest, I will shout out.
I would like to call our team, Masoom team, Dhruv, Saurabh, Ananya, Pulkit to come on stage to have a picture with Mr. Chadda. Now I request YA National Chairman Mr. Dilip Krishna to present the memento to our esteemed guest Mr. Sandeep Chadda. So now we'll be having a break for 10 minutes, and after that we'll be meeting up for a session on digital safety. Thank you.
मेरी मिट्टी में एक खुशबू है, उस खुशबू में एक जादू है। जब छूती दिल को पुरवाई, अरमां यही बेकाबू है। आसमान छूएगा हिंदुस्तान, छूएंगे आसमान, छूएगा हिंदुस्तान। जुड़ते जुड़ते हम जुड़ जाए, खोले जो आँख तोड़ जाए। मासूम के चेहरे पर उतरे मुस्कान बने और खिल जाए। युवाओं धूप हमसे न भारत का रूप हम शहर की तेज रफ्तार करे गाँव के सपने साकार हम तरकश भी और तीर भी हम काबिल भी और वीर भी हमें ऐसा देश बनाना है जिसकी चमके तस्वीर भी आसमान छूएगा हिंदुस्तान छूएंगे आसमान छूएगा हिंदुस्तान
to a larger scope of work, to a larger scape of people.
We already have about more than 140 startups.
It's a country with a great amount of diversity.
That has been the basis of multilateralism in the past.
Live your life with your head up. As India assumed the presidency of the G20,
the word happiness, it springs from the mind within.
We in India have manufacturing programs such as Make in India.
मेरी मिट्टी में एक खुशबू है, उस खुशबू में एक जादू है, जब छूती दिल को पुरवाए अरमां यही बेकाबू छूएंगे आसमान झूमेगा हिंदुस्तान, झूमेंगे आसमान, झूमेगा जुड़ते जुड़ते हम जुड़ जाए, खोले जो पंख तो उड़ जाए। मासूम के चेहरे पर उतरे मुस्कान बने और खिल जाए। युवाओं का नया सवेरा हो, विश्वास का मन में बसेरा हो। हम जुगनू बन के जल जाए, रत्ती भर भी ना अंधेरा हो। झूमेंगे आसमान, झूमेगा हिंदुस्तान, झूमेंगे आसमान, झूमेगा हिंदुस्तान। हमसे उम्मीदों की धूप, हमसे नए भारत का रूप, हम शहर की तेज रफ्तार, करें गाँव के सपने साकार। हम तरकश भी और तीर भी, हम काबिल भी और वीर भी। हमें ऐसा देश बनाना है जिसकी चमके तस्वीर। झूमेंगे आसमान, झूमेगा हिंदुस्तान, झूमेंगे आसमान, झूमेगा हिंदुस्तान।
To a larger scope of work, to a larger scape of people.
We already have about more than 140 startups.
It's a country with great amount of diversity.
Hello, request everyone to please take their seats. We are about to start.
Multilateralism in the past.
to kindly settle down. We are starting the next session in next 2 minutes, please.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you. We'll start our next session, which is on digital safety. I think most of you here would be able to relate well on the next conversation. As we begin our next session, we would like to play a video from Mr. Guillermo. He has given a video message. Please play the video, Sandip.
Namaste and greetings, everyone. On behalf of the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children, I would like to thank you for the kind opportunity to give you a few words of wisdom. I just returned from India after spending 10 days. And again, my apologies if I would have been able to synchronize my agenda a little bit better. I would have been able to attend such a wonderful conference, but I was not. I promise you that next time I will be there in person and we can have some tea together. India is a wonderful country. I love India. In fact, it's one of my favorite countries in the world. I love the culture. I love the religion. I love the public transit. I've taken trains, third class, no AC. So I've seen the culture of India and I adore every aspect of it. But yet with that, I've also learned that there's a lot of issues with trafficking, with online child sexual exploitation. And this is where we need to work together to raise awareness, education, and prevention. I'm honored to be here today. I am truly are, as I stand before you with a great sense of urgency and a call to action. Our shared responsibility as society demands that we address a great and growing threat that knows no borders or boundaries. I speak to you of the scourge of online child sexual exploitation, a vile and repugnant crime that plagues our communities both online and offline. In India, just like any other country in the world, you take pride in your close communities and deep-rooted traditions. And also, safeguarding children is a priority. Yet, these same qualities that define your citizens are now being exploited by child sexual offenders, predators who lurk the internet, preying upon the most vulnerable, the young children of our nations. The rapid advancement in technology has brought us numerous opportunities and benefits to connect the world. Yet it has also opened avenues for the same criminals to exploit the technologies to abuse children. Today, as I stand before you, I implore each of you to take a call to action, to recognize the urgent need to address online child sexual exploitation. And the only way you, young Indians, can do it is by empowering others, by raising awareness, by educating policymakers, educators, and society that it is a global issue. It is a pandemic and often is put aside. Often is a taboo issue and nobody really wants to talk about it. So I'm challenging you to take this on, to address child sexual exploitation. Young Indians, you are influencers. You are the future of our generations. You have given the task and the gift to influence others. Why not taking that quality and empower others? Therefore, I ask you to raise awareness about the issue of online child sexual exploitation and digital safety. What can you do? Reach out to the schools, reach out to policymakers, reach out to industry, reach out to the media to raise awareness. It is a global issue, and it's not happening only in India, it's happening in the United States, and it's happening all over the world. How do we raise awareness? Implement targeted awareness campaigns. Educate children, parents, and educators about the general issue of child sexual exploitation. What are the risks, the prevention strategies, and the reporting mechanisms that we have in order to report child sexual exploitation? You can do this by conducting workshops, seminars, and online safety at schools and community centers. I wish you good luck in your conference, and I hope you leave this conference united, inspired, and armed with the knowledge that you have the power to make a difference. Together, we can build a robust environment for children and to confront sex offenders, to protect children from generations to come. Namaste, and I wish I could go back to India. I can't wait to meet all of you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Guillermo Galarza, he is the Vice President of International Center for Missing Children, USA. So he was supposed to be here as one of the panelists and his schedule did not support. So he gave us a powerful video message asking all the young Indians to come together and work on digital safety. So that was the message. And I would like to welcome Ms. Rashi to introduce our next panel. Thank you, Sangeeta. We are truly honored to have Dr. Ashwini with us here today. She has flown in from Bangalore, and with her accomplishments, I think we are in for a very good session where she'll be educating us about, creating digital safety environment. Dr. Ashwini is the founder director of Mukta Foundation, which is an organization committed to prevent interpersonal violence and promote mental health. She is also the CEO of Flourish Life School. She's a trustee of Aveksha, a women's rights organization. She's a gold medalist in postgraduate studies in psychological counseling and holds a PhD in psychology pertaining to self-inflicted burns among Indian women.
She was earlier a faculty member in postgraduate department of psychological counseling psychology at Montfort College and Jain University, Bangalore. She's a counseling psychologist with practice and research interest in the area of intervention and prevention of interpersonal violence, such as intimate partner violence, child abuse, bullying, etc. She is the external member of several internal complaints committees to prevent sexual harassment at workplaces. She was recognized as one of the 100 leaders under 30 from across the globe for her idea titled Focus Formula to Foster Mental Health in Low and Middle Income Countries. She is the recipient of Rotary Bangalore's Vocational Service Award 2018-19. In the year 2019, she directed a campaign titled Child Safety National Priority, where she traveled non-stop for 90 days to all the 29 states and 3 union territories to conduct over 150 training sessions. In the last decade, she has conducted over 2,000 training programs pertaining to prevention of interpersonal abuse and violence and promotion of mental health. She runs a free psychological counseling helpline for survivors of abuse and violence. So, as you can see, uh, with her enormous work that she's done in this field, we are in for a very learned session, and we have much gratitude for her to traveling to Delhi for having the session. With Dr. Ashwini, we have Mr. Saurabh, who's the regional northern region chair for YI. Saurabh, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashi, and once again, thank you very much for coming down.
Thank you so much.
First thing that let's bring out is during this age of rapid digitalization, what actually is digital safety and what all does it encompass?
First of all, thank you so much for having me over and congratulations on the launch of the Digland. I'm just looking at, the participants here. Most of us look like we are digital immigrants, no? Not so much digital natives, as they say. There are some students, maybe you'll argue that no, we are digital natives, but majority of us, we look like digital immigrants, wherein we may have to learn a lot about the landscape of the digital space. So maybe the first maybe 5 to 6 minutes I'll spend on talking about the kind of risks that children and sometimes even adults can get exposed to in the digital space. Now, just looking at the research, I'm just summarizing it in a way that it provides framework for the rest of our conversation. They talk about 3 C's of risk in the digital space. The first C is the contact risk. The second C is the content risk. And the third C is the conduct risk. So what are the 3 C's? Contact, content, and conduct. Maybe I'll just elaborate on each one, and under that we will learn about several forms of the digital risks. Now, the first one is the contact risk that a child can experience in the digital space. Now, think about it, the word contact. There might be several predators, online with various motives. For example, there might be someone who has access to some picture of the child, maybe a naked picture or maybe a morphed picture, and might be trying to, extort money from the child. This is what is sometimes referred as sextortion. Now, you see, that's a contact risk. No, somebody made an attempt to engage with the child, maybe with a prior content, and then there could be a blackmail. The other forms of contact risk, I think the most important one, and I think it was also emphasized in the video that is made, is cyber grooming. What is grooming? Grooming is an intentional process where the abuser will build trust with the child, will trick the child, abuse the child, and then take certain measures to ensure there is secrecy. Now, grooming is equally applicable to child sexual abuse, not necessarily in the online, the space. So cyber grooming is something we must talk to children because that's a contact risk. You never really know the shapes and forms, it can acquire later. So grooming is also an example of, cyber, the risk that comes in the form of contact. Now, why is it important we talk about cyber grooming, which is a contact risk? Now think about it. Even not necessarily cyber forms of sexual abuse, but child sexual abuse in general. What do we talk about? Good touch, bad touch, let's say. We are talking to children about how if somebody abuses you, come and report, isn't it? But is that prevention? If someone touches you, in an inappropriate manner, or someone has already troubled you, come and report. Now that's reporting, but is that prevention? It's not prevention. So wouldn't it be better if we talk to children about grooming? Now, what did I say are the 4 steps of grooming? Building trust, tricking the child, abusing the child, and then blackmailing the child. Now, when we are talking about, come and report, we are talking about third step of abuse has happened, you come and report. But if we talk about grooming, we could then be telling children the moment you're feeling confused as to what's happening with me, maybe in the cyberspace or, otherwise, tell trusted adults. So therefore, the first risk in the cyberspace is the contact risk. Somebody is making an attempt to contact the child. Now, the second risk is the content risk. Now, what is this content risk? Maybe briefly 3 forms. One is exposure to aggressive content. A lot of studies have proven when children are repeatedly exposed to aggressive content online, there is risk of desensitization. I mean, all of us might have that experience. When we begin watching a horror movie, the first few scenes we are like, we can't watch it. But then by the last scene, we can definitely watch it, with eyes wide open. That means in a matter of 1.5 hours of watching a horror movie, we are desensitized. And now imagine the kind of aggressive content a child can get exposed to online. So this is the first form of content risk, aggression related content exposure. Now, the second form is the sexual content, pornographic content, sometimes even presented in the form of animation. So much so that it becomes so much easier for a child to not even get shocked at looking at the content because it's in the form of animation. And imagine now content and contact risk together. Maybe there is a groomer who introduces the content in a manner that is so easy for the child to get desensitized. Maybe it begins in the form of animation, and then maybe it escalates into more, intense forms of, pornographic content. So content risk, first one aggressive content, second one sexual content. Maybe the third form of content that we must all be aware of, which we are not discussing as much as we must, which is the value conflict based content. Prejudice, language, religion. That's also something that radicalization is happening online. So value based conflict related content also is a content that we must be talking about. So we've spoken about contact risk, content risk, and now let's go to the third one, which is the conduct risk. Now, what is conduct risk? Maybe 2 broad ways we could understand. One is, what has been the response of the child to content and contact risk? Imagine somebody was demanding for naked pictures. Maybe the child has already sent it across. We don't know. Or maybe the groomer caught hold of some information about the child, and through blackmail, some sexual content has been derived from the child only. Here, the child did not initiate anything. Instead, it was out of the reaction to the earlier 2 forms of, the risk. Now, the other thing, I think it's sometimes not discussed, but we must, is children also knowingly or unknowingly can be engaging in forms of behavior where the conduct is already abusive in nature. For example, cyberbullying. An 8th standard kid could be engaging in cyberbullying, or we have seen cases where a 9th standard girl and a 8th standard, boy were dating, and this girl had certain content of the boy, you know, and after a breakup, it was a case of revenge porn. The girl was threatening the guy, saying, I'm going to leak the picture. Now, this is already a conduct, the risk on the part of the child. So, therefore, when we are looking at digital safety broadly, we can categorize it into contact based risk, content based risk, and conduct based risk.
So once we have uh, understood these points, can we have some light on the age appropriate education? I mean, at what age or what stage in life such education should start taking place?
Absolutely. I think we should start early. No, many of us, even today, when we get a new mobile phone, we sometimes could be giving to our partners to say, you set it and you give it to me. That truly speaks a lot about our cyber, the literacy, technological, the literacy. Now, like Saurav was pointing it out, at what age do we begin to talk to children about safety in general and cyber safety in particular? I think the moment we believe a child can get up in the morning, get ready, and go to school, now that's already an age that the child can be taught ABCs of, the cyber literacy. But just talking about two broad models, what I see sometimes in our countries, let's say a school might say, in 8th standard, will allot 1 hour and then you conduct a program on cyber safety. And the same thing is happening even with child sexual abuse. No, a school will decide our school will have program for 5th standard children on this. This is a very topical approach. Topical approach is during the entire school, the schooling, 1 year we will talk about one topic for 2 hours, 2 hours if we are lucky. But the model that I think we need to really popularize is, what's called concentric circle model of teaching and learning. One is the topical model, which is one off. We are done once. But the model I think best works for any type of the learning, especially where safety is concerned, is the concentric circles. And I'm sure all of us remember from our geometry classes, no, concentric circles. What happens? The radius keeps on increasing. So what I'm trying to say here is, with children, let's start as early as even UKG first standard. Each year, we increase the radius and the depth of what we talk. I think each year we need to revisit this topic. So the best model would definitely be concentric circle model, which would want adults to have a plan in place. What do we talk for the first standard child, second standard child, and go on. And the other thing that I really want to emphasize is also, let's say, in a class, it's one thing, but it's also if parents are taking the initiative to talk to the child, and we know which method of learning the child benefits from, we need to know about the learning style of the child. Let me ask you this question. How many of you here right now, as I'm seeing, some of your eyes, for some reason, it's on the projector. For some reason, some of you would pay attention to the words. Some of you, for some reason, you want to see the projector, hoping that as we are talking, maybe some slide will come. I don't know. For all you know, you're a visual learner. For some of you might be auditory learners. You listen and learn. Some of you will see and learn. Some of you, you will listen, but till the time you put it on paper, your heart won't rest. You are a read-write learner. And some of you might be kinesthetic learner. Kinesthetic learner could be you need to go online, click that, click this, and only then you will learn. So very similarly, even children have their own unique learning style. And some of us might have a combination. When I took the test, it's called VARK learning style, and I want you to take it up. I was the VK kind. I'm the visual and the kinesthetic kind. Some of us, so children also have their own learning style. So if we have awareness of what is my child's unique learning style, maybe we can customize our teaching on not just cyber safety, on every other topic of safety, and we can customize it to the child's, the learning style.
So how do we handle this part when we are trying to teach a child about the concentric circles and trying to increase the radius. Uh, how do we demarcate between balancing the privacy of the child and monitoring and educating them? There has to be a, what we believe there should be a thin line, but how do we monitor that?
Saurabh, I hope I'm not giving like a roundabout answer to this particular question. So now the two words that were prominent in this question is privacy and monitoring. One is respecting the child's privacy, all the while, also having, not just the right to monitor, but also the duty to monitor, because we are looking at, the children. It's like sometimes between countries, they say, we trust you, but we have the right to verify, your intent. So very similarly, I think privacy and monitoring. Sometimes if you look at the literature, these two words are pitched against each other. It's like if you respect privacy, then there cannot be monitoring. Maybe, I'll answer this by talking about parenting style, or generally, how do we interact with children. There are four types of parenting style, knowingly or unknowingly. In a matter of, let's say, 2 to 3 years of being a parent, something would have become our style. We may deny it when we learn the consequence of it, but then something would have become our style. I'll talk about each one, each parenting style, and then maybe I'll talk about how this parenting style would impact the way they manage privacy and monitoring that balance. Would that be okay? So the first three, it wouldn't yield desirable, the results, either for the child, even for the parent-child relationship. The first three are not so great. The last one is, better in terms of how do we manage respecting the child's privacy and monitoring. Now the first one is autocratic parenting style. How does the word sound to all of you? Autocratic. Give me synonyms. Bit of dictators. My child is my child, his phone is my phone. There might be parents who are like, what privacy are you even talking about? Monitoring is all that's needed. For an let's not label the parent as autocratic. Let's say for a parent who has autocratic, the style, privacy of the child does not matter much. The children here are already nodding. Some of privacy does not matter much. What really matters is how can I monitor? How can I monitor? You teach me the strategies. What parental controls I can bring in, but it does not mean the child can't figure out the same thing and undo it also. No? So what's likely to happen when a parent, and like I said in the beginning, this parent is a digital immigrant and the child is a digital native. So who has better knowledge? The natives definitely would have. Now think about what happens with parents who are autocratic. They might be extremely, I know this word might sound intense, but violative of the child's right to be in the cyberspace. Who are you talking to? Facebook, what's the age after which they can open an account? 13, no? Imagine the child opened an account at the age of 14. The Facebook has given the right, whereas the parent thinks, no, you can't. Whoever you are clicking as you're my friend, I must know. Can work in terms of safety, but for how long? For how long? There are some studies, not just specific to cyber safety, but generally, which are pointing at how children of parents who are autocratic, in their presence, sometimes they act everything is okay, but behind the back of the parents, for all you know, they are already in problem and they may not reveal. No? And these parents are also the ones who will come back and say, I told you so. There is nothing more painful than hearing that line, right? I told you not to enter that space and you did. Now you see you're getting blackmails. Now a lot of times children of parents who are autocratic in their way of dealing, when they get into problem in the cyberspace, they're unlikely to reach out for help from the parents. Yeah. So, autocratic parents, privacy does not matter. What really matters is monitoring. Yeah, it may backfire. It can ensure child safety, but truly is it ensuring child safety? That we cannot verify because a child may not be transparent. Now we'll go to the second type of parenting, which is the indulgent parenting. How does the word sound? Indulgent, pampering parenting. They take pride that hey, we've already got a phone to my child. You know, the child might be in fifth standard, but the child has a separate phone. And I'm not saying it's okay or not okay, but the situation would be that we've given. There's a lot of pride attached. So here, what do you think is the focus? Privacy of the child is highly valued, whereas monitoring is not valued because the parent thinks, if I'm monitored, then I'm not trusting the child. But here also there is a risk for children to get into problems. No, say I met a child, uh, classic textbook kind of indulgent parent. There are parents when the child has exam, their BP will shoot up. That kind. Or the child has to go for a school trip, and the parents are going behind the child. That type of the parents. Now this child was a victim of was surviving the threat of revenge porn. I mean, they were in a relationship, children, and then some pictures exchanged. They had a breakup, and then this boy was threatening. Now, this child tells in counseling session, I did not reveal about this to my parent because if I reveal, I don't know what will happen to my parents' health. You see, a child of an autocratic parent won't reveal because of the fear of being blamed or accused. Whereas a child of an indulgent parent is telling, I did not tell because I don't know, my mother might just cry and make a scene and what. So the risk is also high when the parent is indulgent in nature. Now, third type of parenting is a neglectful parent. The neglectful parenting, how do you think they are? Neither privacy matters nor monitoring matters. They don't even know the child is in the cyberspace. What is the action? So these are parents who are unlikely to even engage in this conversation sometimes, on child safety in the digital space. Now, the fourth one, which we really need to be, emphasizing on, which is the democratic parenting. What happens with democratic parenting is they first have an open dialogue on the topic, irrespective of what the age of the child is. If the child can hold a phone, that means the child can use it as well as fall prey to, things that go wrong. So the few qualities of, democratic parents: one, engage in an open dialogue. Secondly, they don't tell, instead they begin with asking, what do you know? For all the child is telling things like, mommy, my friend got doxed, and the parent has no idea what doxing is. Imagine. Then it's time for parent to learn from the child. So open communication. Secondly, instead of telling children you should be like that, this first ask and then build conversation on it. And also democratic parents sets mutual expectations, for how long. In the event that somebody troubles you, what would be your next course of action? This is what is called exploration of logical consequence. Hypothetically, maybe a parent will give a situation and ask a child, if this happens, what would you do? And then understand how well prepared the child is, for such digital, concerns in the digital space. So, from my understanding, sir, the parents who best handle this balance between respecting privacy and monitoring is democratic parents who first begin setting boundaries, setting expectations, also saying till which point you can take it and when would you want me to also, yeah.
So now that we have spoken about the privacy and the balancing act, how do we address the online, the digital bullying and the harassment that one might come across in within their family or within their circle, how do we first of all recognize that there is a victim amongst us, and how do we address that problem?
Sure. So now let's take up cyberbullying. The hallmark feature of cyberbullying is in its intent. See, harassment could be one off, but bullying is one, there is definite intent to hurt the other person, and also bullying is all about repetition and it's happening over and over and over again. So I would say cyberbullying is one form of online harassment which is characterized by its repetitiveness. Now, I would like to address it from three perspectives, and I hope we have time. We have? Okay, sure. Now, from three perspectives. One is, what if the child is a victim of cyberbullying? Then we need to understand what was the nature of cyberbullying. Was it sexual in nature? Was it prejudicial in nature? Or was it, verbal in nature? When I say verbal in nature, trolling. Whereas prejudicial it could be verbal only, but on a specific aspect of one's identity. Or was it sexual in nature? Depending on that, maybe we require a certain, the intervention, maybe psychological, sometimes even legal, depending on who the perpetrator is and what's the nature of it. Now, the second perspective is, knowingly or unknowingly, is the child engaging in cyberbullying himself or herself? Then we need to identify the reason. It's called 5 P's. I seem to like 3 C's, 5 P's. First P, is the child engaging in cyberbullying because there is a need for power? Is there such a need for power, and the child believes the only way that I can be powerful is by bullying someone? Yeah. Or is it because the child has a need to become popular? Sometimes I've heard children say, when you troll, how many likes I get? I mean, I need not do anything. Instead, I can troll creatively and then become popular. So is the need for popularity the reason why I'm trolling? The third P is, like I've already said, prejudices. Maybe in the homes or in the place where they're studying, are their prejudices so deep that they use cyber platforms to bully? Language, religion, gender, so be. The third one is payback. Payback. What is this payback? I think this is very important. Sometimes children who are bullied on the school ground, they're not able to stand up for themselves there. Maybe they turn bullies in the cyberspace as a way to feel powerful somewhere. And the need to feel powerful is a human need, no? Made to feel so inferior on the school ground by someone that they want to feel so powerful online that they're turning. This is called reactive bullying. Reactive bullying is, I'm not the original bully, but then, situations have made me so. Payback makes for a good movie plot, right? How many times have we seen? A good boy turned rogue. So this is payback. And the fifth one is problem. What is this problem? There might be genuine mental health concerns that might be contributing to a child becoming a cyberbully. For example, I'll just talk about one. Though it's so tempting to talk about another 10 mental health concerns, I'll just talk about one. Something called alexithymia. Alexithymia. Now, what is this alexithymia? Alexithymia is it's not a diagnosable disorder, but a subclinical condition where a person might find it very difficult to understand one's own feelings. And as a consequence of it, will never understand, the feelings of others, and is engaging in behaviors that are detrimental to another child's life. So there could be a genuine problem. I said 5 P, the other 2 P's are peer pressure. Peer pressure. If you're my friend, you need to do it. Typical, remember Munabai's circuit? Circuit did what not? Because he wanted to be in the good books of, Munabai. Similarly, there might be someone who is a cyber bully because a friend wants him or her. So peer pressure could also be, one of the reasons. So we need to identify what the reason is and then give the necessary intervention. What I mean by that is, let's say I won't go for all the 6 P's and say what's the intervention. Let's say the child has a need to be popular. Could we explore other avenues where the child could, showcase the talent and be popular and not choose this route? So one is the victim's perspective, the other one is abusive behavior, the third one is the witness. Are we seeing our children being witnesses to cyberbullying and do nothing about it? Many of us are also like that. No, we've seen cyberbullying happening, but then we did not do anything. Imagine if I cannot stand up when my friend is getting bullied, will I stand up when I am getting bullied myself? So therefore, we need to also say, how is my child reacting and responding when he or she sees another child in trouble? So all these 3 perspectives regarding cyberbullying requires its own unique, the intervention.
And so we have learned about the 3 C's and the 5 P's. Before we open the house for questions, there's one last thing that I would like you to enlighten us about. Once you have recognized that there is some issue, there is some trouble. Let's talk about just the let's say, for example, the cyberbullying part. How important is it to speak the child's language that they don't end up blaming themselves about it? Because what I have seen and what I have learned about is that many a times victims, they blame themselves that we are at fault. It must be something that wrong that we did, that we have been put through all this. How important is that to cater to that language?
Absolutely. I think, sometimes I think to speak the child's language is to listen. It does not require speaking. Sometimes to speak the language of the child is fundamentally to listen to the child, and in that we've spoken a lot more to the child if, instead of us, us speaking. Now, one thing is, like Saurabh was asking, what do we do? How do we respond if the child has disclosed? But in many cases, the first step would be to see the warning signs. The child might not have spoken. It's a case even child sexual abuse also, children don't speak. Then we need to rely on our observation of broadly changes in behavior or any strange behavior. The changes in behavior could be a child who used to spend, like, let's say, half an hour with phone, now is spending 3 hours. Isn't that a change in behavior? Or earlier, mom is entering the room, the child was okay. But the moment now the mother enters, the child keeps the mobile phone away. Now that's a change in behavior. Or the strange behavior could be the child is taking mobile phone to the washroom also. Now let's look out for any changes in behavior or any strange behavior that's not adding up, and then begin a dialogue with the child as to, I'm observing this. Is there something you wish to tell me? Never ask a child, I'm seeing this. Are you abused? Especially after a summit like this, workshop like this, we are on high alert. So whenever we see changes in behavior or strange behavior, first step, describe what you saw so that the child knows you're coming from a place of information. It could be something like, Saurabh, earlier you were comfortable to, get onto Facebook in our presence. I know you don't want to do it, but these days, the moment I enter the room, you keep your phone and then you're just waiting for me to go out. At least that's how I felt. Is there something that you wish to tell me? So, first step, always state what you've observed, and then secondly, never ever demand, tell me right now. Sometimes have you seen, tell me right now what's happening, okay? Now this is like Viva. You know the answer, but things don't, come out. And in order to manage this, I have made this mistake as a therapist sometimes. Go to the other extreme. What's the other extreme? Tell me whenever you want. The other extreme is, this is what I'm seeing. You look very tense these days after you're on Facebook. Tell me whenever you're comfortable. Now, this is like giving an assignment without a deadline. Will that glorious day ever come? Will we? No, we don't. So it's always better that we give a window period. The window period could be, this is what I observe. If you're comfortable, you can tell me right now, or let's say today is Saturday, right? Saturday, Sunday, Monday. At least before Tuesday, would you be able to tell? See what's happening? You see, window period. Even sometimes governments also taking a bus pass, they will give a 1 week window period. Then people go there much higher. So similarly, a child is likely to disclose what is happening when we give that window period than when you say, tell me right now or tell me whenever you want. Yeah. The other thing, like I said, what we need to avoid is a secondary victimization. What is secondary victimization? You see your brother, he didn't get into problem, but you're someone I knew would get into problem. One is the cyber, the concern. That's the primary trauma, primary victimization. Now, the secondary victimization is the people reacting in a way that is really not helping the child emotionally recover and heal. So we need to avoid that. How do we ensure that happens? Like I said, the way to speak to the child is through listening. Listen, and when we listen, a child will speak. Or human beings generally would, speak, and in that speaking, we all heal. So listening is the way forward, at least to begin with.
Thank you so much. I would like to now open the floor for questions.
Hi, thank you so much for this, your discourse. It was very enlightening. So, I have a very quick question. So, in our chapter, we talk to children from. Hi, I'm Ishita. I am the Masoom chair for the Gurugram chapter. So, in our chapter, we interact with kids from the underprivileged sector. The schools where we go to, the children coming from the houses of house help, drivers, construction workers. So, their parents are digitally, I don't think they have any idea, but they do have smartphones. And the children are definitely smarter than them. So, in such a scenario, how to address, because while we try to talk to parents, it's very difficult in this scenario to get the parents to talk to us because they don't have time, they cannot take leave. So when we're talking to children of different ages, how do we address this?
I know it's. Thanks a lot for that question, ma'am. See, now, I think many of us work under circumstances where there are more limitations than an ideal setting. No, like you said, it has been my belief that it's first better to empower the adults in the life of a child and then go to children, especially with child sexual abuse. We've seen times when the child is saying, Mama, the uncle is abusing me, and the mother says, keep quiet, that is not abuse, and things like that. The same thing is also likely to happen even on this particular topic. So, wherever possible, parents first, children later. In the event that this is not happening, that we are not able to meet parents in the workshop format, I know it's easier said than done. Can we explore other opportunities to engage parents? Here are a couple of ideas. One, if at all parents can read and write, then maybe can we give a printed content with a hope that they would read it? Now, the other possibilities could be, this is something that we tried at Mukta Foundation. We did a 15 episodes on child sexual abuse for a community radio station. And community radio stations, their reach is phenomenal. Sometimes, at least we engaged with this partner called Radio Active, and the idea was their numbers were we reached up to 3 lakh plus people with whom otherwise we may not have had the direct reach. So all that I'm saying is, could we explore other ways of engaging parents other than the workshop format that works best with children? Because children are in schools. It's easy to get, but parents, how do we get? So one could be written material, the other one could be community radios, the other one could be, sometimes we've tried this at Mukta, giving a written material and simply asking children to get one signature of the parent. So at least for that signature, they will just have their eyes on that particular, the pamphlet. No, so that could be. But in the event that we have absolutely no, way to approach parents, then we have to just settle with children and then take a promise from these children that they will go to the parents and speak to the best of their ability. It's not that the child says, I attended a workshop, come listen. Parents are not going to sit, but wherever possible, at least speak to your granny who is likely to listen, speak to your younger sibling loudly so that when you are speaking, the parent is listening, worried about what are you talking. So we may have to explore different approaches to engage parents is what I'm thinking aloud. But there is no one easy option and best option, given the limitations are so many. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you for this insightful session. My name is Praveen and I'm from YI Gurgaon. I'm the Thaler chair. My question, ma'am, is like we've been speaking about the children who've been abused, the victims. Is there anything that we do or can be done for the perpetrators? Like what can be done to either nip it at the bud or what is eventually done to them when it is found out that they are the perpetrators?
I know this is such an interesting question. I'll just give one example of such an initiative. See, now, for the frameworks to think, there are 4 approaches to work on a cause like this: child sexual abuse, cyber safety. There are 4 approaches. One, victim focused approach. Okay, victim focused approach would be working with children, no, in this particular, the case. The second one is perpetrator focused approach, and that's exactly what, sir here is asking, what is happening from that approach point of view. Now the third one is situation focused approach. What is situation focused approach? We're not training children, we are not even we are not working with perpetrators. Instead, situation focused approach could be CCTVs everywhere. That's one example. And then we have community focused approach. Now, coming to your question of what could be done and what is being done with the perpetrators themselves, just imagine one pedophile. If we could treat and rehabilitate, how many children we could be, saving, isn't it? One such initiative that I have seen comes from Germany. I know I might be pronouncing the word Dunkelfeld project, I think. Dunkelfeld, yeah. Here they publicized on, radios and TV channels that, look, if you identify yourself as someone sexually attracted to children, and you cannot be acting on your urges because that's a crime and it's violating the child's, the right to safety, come seek help. And the project, the results reveal that so many people who identified themselves as pedophiles, but also who had this understanding that I'm attracted to children sexually, but I will not be acting, based on that. They sought help. Now, very recently, when I say recently, I think almost like a year ago, we got in touch with an institution in Pune, Don't Offend India, who are working with the same program. So this is one program that I know is perpetrator focused. So, but do we have more such programs? I'm not aware of the many other programs. This is prevention, isn't it? They have not abused any children. But in the event that, someone has abused, the children, law comes into the picture. And at least, Mukta Foundation, we've not had the opportunity to work with perpetrators in the legal system from a psychological rehabilitation perspective. We've not had. But we've had little experience of working with children in the observation homes who also engaged in sexually abusive behavior. the possibility is huge that we need to work even from a perpetrator focused approach, definitely. All four approaches: victim focused, perpetrator focused, situation focused, and more importantly, community focused. Now, this summit is a classic example of a community focused approach to prevention and addressing the issue. I think we need a combination of all the four approaches.
We have one last question. There's a gentleman in the back. Yeah, वो brown shirt में जो खड़े हो रहे हैं, please. हाँ, आपका ही कह रहा हूँ जी मैं. हाँ, आपका ही.
Yeah, my name is Arun Gaggar. I just wanted to know, technology has created the problem. Can technology be used to solve the problems? We are talking lot of about artificial intelligence and all that. So whenever we are opening a phone, my biometrics are captured, and then it is easy to find who is the perpetrator. Because as long as the accused or the perpetrator is aware that he cannot be caught that easily, the crime will continue. But if the probability of being caught is very high, definitely the crimes will go down. So some technology, I'm just imagining out of the box thinking, whether technology can help in solving this problem.
Thanks a lot for that question, sir. I'm definitely not a technically sound on the technology matters, but a myth that is there in the minds of many children at least is anything that I do in the cyberspace can be done anonymously. While the digital footprint you leave and actually tracing a crime in the digital space is much easier than otherwise. But there is a myth that there are three things they say has worsened the situation. One is anonymity, and this anonymity is the illusion of anonymity. It's not, in true sense, nothing is ever anonymous. Everything can be traced back. The illusion of anonymity, and then also affordability. Those of us in our 30s and 40s, if you remember the dongles that we used to use, 250 MB or something was 250 bucks, and today it's so affordable. So you can spend easily, and also accessibility, right? So anonymity, accessibility, and affordability, all perceived only, may not be real, but then this perceived illusion of anonymity, especially, like sir was pointing it out, nothing is anonymous, but perceived illusion, I think, is worsening the situation. So, three types of literacy is needed, I feel. One is psychological literacy on consent seeking, boundary, assertiveness. The second one is cyber literacy. And the third one is legal literacy. I think with these three combination, maybe the chances of effectively, preventing the issue, I think, increases. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for this very informative. We have to just. We'll take one final question. Please, there's on here.
Hello, ma'am. Actually, I cannot stand up because I have baby in my lap.
I'll stand up. We can see you.
Ma'am, you elaborated very beautifully that autocratic parenting and democratic parenting. But what is the main method that a child can open their heart to their parents? What is the actual way? A child should be say anything to their parent. Even I'm a single parent, so so this is the big problem for me, because same time I'm scolding and same time I'm loving. So being a single parent, I'm facing such kind of problems sometimes. So what is the perfect method to handle such problems? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for trusting the space to also share the personal background. Now think about it. None of us ever use the word fathering, mothering, isn't it? Parenting. So one parent is just perfect a situation. In fact, less work sometimes to just sometimes parenting, joint parenting. So that need not be a limitation, is what I'm saying. So if you're a single parent, so be it, and it's actually something that we can navigate with democratic parenting. Now, like you said, how can the child open up? Now, the child can have a trusted conversation with you only when the foundations are democratic in the parenting style. Just like the nation requires democratic principles, parenting also. Why? Because then only the child can have a voice. No, the child need not only come to you when the child has succeeded, but also should come when the child has faced problem. So, few things about democratic parenting. One, the parent will not have double standards. For example, if you say, you should listen to me, you would be a parent who would first listen. So the hallmark feature of a democratic parent is, I mean, this line, I love it the most. One, these parents are more worried not because children are not listening to them, instead, children are constantly observing them. The other thing about democratic parent is any skill, quality that we want our child to imbibe. At least we will try as much as possible to imbibe it first, ourselves. So therefore, I think the principles of democratic parenting will definitely lay a solid foundation for a child to emotionally connect with you and also reveal, especially if the child is in problem. I would strongly recommend you read up on, democratic parenting or what is called authoritative parenting, not authoritarian, that is autocratic. You read up on democratic, authoritative, parenting. It is classic iron fist in a velvet gloves. You are a parent who is very, very firm, but what's on the iron fist? Velvet gloves. You're also very gentle. Autocratic parents, how would they be? Only iron fist. Break the knuckles of the child. Indulgent parents, you tell me, how would they be? Only velvet gloves. Child only will bring you and neglectful parents, no fist, no glove. So a democratic parent's interaction with the child is iron fist in a velvet gloves. Yeah, approachable and reliable. And with this, thank you so much,
Thank you. Can we
Saurabh
have a round
and
of
everyone.
applause, please?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for your time. I would like to call upon our National Chair, Sangeeta, to please. There's a small memento, and I would request the National Chair and Co-Chair, Masoom, please.
Was that a good session? Were you all able to relate? Yes, I think the audience here are 50-50%, right? So how Shuni ma'am was saying, we're probably digital natives or digital transits, you're trying to navigate the way. I believe both of us in the both spaces were able to relate to that conversation. And it would be so much wonderful if the Yuva students here, college students here, although it was mentioned so many times as child, and it was mentioned as from the parents' angle, you were able to relate from the parents' side and see the other side of it and give some space, or where it was helpful for you to navigate to your parents' side. And we really hope this opens up conversations in your houses as parents as well as students who are here. And, who doesn't able to relate to bullying or grooming or peer pressure? What do we do? What do we do, to get the recognition and then so many likes in Instagram or Facebook, So just be aware of what you go through or your friends go through. Watch out for each other. Be kind. That's how we support each other, keep each other safe, look out for each other, be safe in the digital space. So thank you so much, ma'am, for that very exciting and engaging conversation. Yeah. Now we move on to the next session. I request Pulkit.
Good afternoon. Our next session is collaboration as a key, and I would like to invite on stage our three panelists: Ms. Monica Sachdev, Dr. Manjari Mukherjee, and Dr. Isha Sharma. So I'll start with Dr. Manjeer Mukherjee. Dr. Manjeer Mukherjee is a trained sociologist working in areas of gender, sexuality, medicine, technology, violence, child rights, and abuse prevention and intervention. She has completed a doctorate in sociology from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. She has been extensively working in the development sector for last 17 years on these issues. She has authored and presented various papers in the national and international and networking forums, which include the World Social Forum, International Women's Health Meet, National Bioethics Conference, and annual meet of Health Association and Action International Asia Pacific, and various other fields. Dr. Mukherjee is currently associated with ARPAN as a Senior Director, Content and Curriculum, and heads the content and curriculum work. She has played a key role in shaping ARPAN's trajectory in the last 12 years of her association. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Dr. Ms. Monica Sachdev, with 2 decades of experience in education deliverance as a primary school coordinator, she understands a child's point of view, a master degree in social work with counseling as a specialty. Monica uses all of her skills to effectively bridge the gap between teaching and parenting. She has successfully conducted sexual literacy workshops with thousands of children from the age bracket of 3 to 17 in various schools and government run institutions. She is also associated with parenting workshops conducted by DCPCR in Delhi NCR. She is into training the trainers and teachers of prestigious institutions like TFI, Smile Foundation, Monkey Wise, and has taken workshop with teachers, empowering them to take the teaching to next levels. Her passion towards learning and an energetic brand of optimism can put a smile on anyone's face. She believes in learning by doing. Our third panelist is Dr. Isha Sharma. She is an assistant professor in child and adolescent psychiatry, NIMHANS, Bangalore. She also holds a PhD scholar in psychiatry from NIMHANS. She has been working in the area of child psychiatry for over 6 decades and has represented various forums, both nationally and internationally. And over the past 2 decades, she has also been awarded various medals and sponsorship from different forums. Thank you.
Thank you.
So collaboration as a key is the topic for the session. And Dr. Manjeer, what is the best way which we can encourage the organizations to collaborate?
I think the best way that we can encourage everybody to collaborate, and this is a space which speaks about how we have been able to collaborate together to be here this morning, is just to be articulate about the shared goal that we all share. Once we are articulate about the shared goal, and people can then find their pathways of where they can intervene. I think that becomes very critical. In our experience of the last 17 years, what we have seen is sometimes this shared goal is not visible. Yeah.
And I can talk about an anecdote where when we started as an organization 17 years back, the issue was still very nascent. People were hesitating talking about child sexual abuse, that too in the school setup. And Urban runs a program which is a school-based program on person safety education. And we would approach schools to kind of do the program with children, train their teachers, and their general response would be, but how is this helping me? I am concerned about finishing the curriculum that I have invested in. Children come here to study, how will it help? And so how can I really collaborate with you? However, what helped is to have persistent dialogues, to help them see that if we're really looking at educating a child, if we are true to what we have kind of set ourselves for is learning, then it's very critical that we as schools, as institutions, also create a trauma-informed safe space for children. Because without that trauma-informed safe space for children to learn, cannot really achieve, it cannot happen. So what helped is having those conversations, talking to them about facts and research studies, which very clearly says that at least 13% of children, there is a predictable probability that if they have an abuse in their childhood, will not complete school. And that has immense impact on dropout, school success, learning outcomes, all of it. So child protection and education are not two independent things that can work independently in silos, and they have to integrate. So I think bringing these conversations, having these spaces to have conversations, and secondly, I think what really motivates is to, I think Ashini was talking about listening. And I think it's not only key when you're doing a therapeutic session, it's definitely key there, but it's very key in your collaborative activities as well. Because you really need to listen from a space of an understanding of trust that that other person is also equally interested in that cause that you're working with. It's just that you are helping them understand where they can intersect. And that will have to be from a very, very empathetic perspective, not from a top down perspective that I'm here to tell you that you need to do it. You are not concerned about the children in your school. I am. It's not that. A teacher is equally concerned, a school is equally concerned. It's just that we need to kind of realign the priorities, realign how each one of us can play our part if we really want a child to grow up to the citizen of India that we were talking about this morning. So I think that can really motivate people when we are kind of having these conversations up front, talking about evidences, talking about models which are evidence driven, and listening. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Monica, if you can just elaborate from, as you were there from the education background, from the faculty side, the other side, which is actually delivering in direct contact with the children on day-to-day basis. How do you find it with the same deliverables given by the same faculty who are teaching, or are you looking for external resources?
So this is a good question. So मतलब 30 साल से मैं स्कूल में पढ़ा रही थी और मैं एक छोटा सा वाक्य आपको बताना चाहूँगी that I was a teacher. I started my career with the kindergarten teachers, KG class teacher. और जब मैं क्लास स्कूल में घुसी तो मुझे बोला गया कि बच्चों की सेफ्टी, सिक्योरिटी, उनकी होलिस्टिक एजुकेशन सब आपकी जिम्मेदारी है. So I could understand holistic education. I knew I would give them the best in the education. But जब safety का मामला आया, so I realized that I am not capable enough to do lot of things. Physically बहुत बचा लेंगे हम बच्चों को, but sexual abuse एक बहुत integrate topic हो जाता है बच्चों के लिए. So I remember कि जिस स्कूल में मैं पढ़ा रही थी वहाँ पे we used to have children from उड़ान फाउंडेशन. बच्चे जो थे वो बोर्डिंग स्कूल में पढ़ाती थी और बोर्डिंग स्कूल में बच्चों को वो हमारे साथ में रहते थे. और मेरे साथ में एक बच्ची थी केजी क्लास में. अब केजी क्लास के बच्चे खुद अपने कपड़े या चेंज नहीं कर पाते हैं. एज अ टीचर आई हैड टू हेल्प द चाइल्ड एंड आई रिमेंबर द इंसिडेंट दैट आई टुक द चाइल्ड टू द वॉशरूम and I tried to touch her to help her to go to the washroom. The girl shrieked. वो चिल्लाने लग गई बच्ची. उस दिन मुझे रियलाइज हुआ कि शायद जो मेरी एजुकेशन है टू बी अ टीचर वो कहीं कुछ मायने में इनकम्प्लीट है. I was not trained to address these kind of situations. When I was a child, my parents did not talk to me about it. Neither do I as a parent actually have these conversations with children. So collaboration वहाँ मेरे लिए आया कि मैं कहाँ से ऐसी information लूँ as a teacher that empowers me to have an address with the child, or I'm able to guide the child to look at what child sexual abuse could be, and then at that moment take on the whole school with me. I go and tell my principal ma'am that ये ज़रूरत है, ये ज़रूरत है, इसकी ज़रूरत है. So I think वहाँ for me collaboration became very important. So 30 years down the line, I did went and collaborated with an organization जिसके लिए मैं अभी काम करती हूँ. I work for a Parvarish Care Foundation, and we actually go into the school. And let me tell you that when I walk into a nursery class or even a KG class, that is a 4-year-old children, and we start conversations regarding bodies and safety. As a teacher, I am reminded every second that don't go into the classroom thinking इनको कुछ पता नहीं है. Children already have a lot of knowledge. They are aware of it. So collaboration is the only key. अगर मैं ये सोचूं कि मैं पूरा स्कूल चला लूंगी, सेफ्टी भी मैनेज कर लूंगी, क्लासरूम्स भी मैनेज कर लूंगी, that's not possible. So I think hats off to the organizations who are bringing in all these things.
So thank you for your insights from the deliverables end. Now, Dr. Isha, since you are working in the field of child psychiatry, what's your perspective on this?
Thanks for asking me that question, because I was just trying to see, how I can string what I'm going to say next to what both of them before me have said. See, I think, and as I talk, I'm coming from some experience that we've had in collaborating in working with school children, especially in the last few years, not 6 decades, little lesser than that, but in the last few years, where again, so the Department of Police collaborated with NIMHANS, which is a mental health organization, to deliver a program on child safety in schools. So there's police, there's mental health, there is education. And then as we worked, we also realized that this will not work unless we have the buy-in of the child protection system, we have the buy-in of the child welfare system. So it doesn't work, like you're saying, without it. But as, we went along the program, one of the things that we realized is that, see, who is our target audience? Our target audience is children who are very young, some of them 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, so right up to about 15, 16 years old. So this is and like we say in child mental health, I see 18 groups of people. I don't see children. Okay, so there are 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds, and all of them are very unique in what they understand about the world, how they relate to the world, and how they respond to the world. So, that is our target audience. It is a dynamic group. It is a group that is very diverse. Now, who is that audience relating to? Because I don't think children come from the lens of intersectoral collaboration. They don't understand that I am mental health and she's education and she's welfare or social systems. They don't understand that. For them, it is, मेरे को कौन सी टीचर अच्छी लगती है, मेरे को कौन सी फ्रेंड अच्छी लगती है, किसकी बात मुझे समझ में आती है. That's the lens that they're coming from. So I think when I look at it from the child's best interest and child mental health perspective, collaboration is important to get the wheels running, to create the right kind of content, to figure out what pedagogies work, what systems work. अगर मेरे को child safety की बात 4 साल के बच्चे को बतानी है, what language will work? So that's where I need to collaborate with somebody in the field who can tell me that, okay, if you say it like this, a 4-year-old kid will get it. Whereas for a 13-year-old, I may have to use a diametrically opposite pedagogy, right? So collaboration is important where we are figuring out क्या कहना है, कब कहना है, कैसे कहना है, किसको कहना है. But ultimately, children have to hear it from somebody they can relate, from somebody who works with them and is with them, on a day-to-day basis, a face that they know, trust, are familiar with, will be able to reach out to. I think one of the things that ma'am was saying before this, this thing about, I think I missed the point, but essentially this thing about that, who is this child going to go back to? Who's going to be the person who will be there to listen to the disclosure, to be able to respond to it, not just here in the moment, but in the coming few weeks, because children's disclosures don't just happen, in a flash and then bus, everything is sorted. It's not like that. Disclosure happens and then, they will hold back some. And then they may want to visit it again after 6 weeks, not even the next day. But then after 6 weeks, the same person should be there. Yes, so now I remember. So ma'am was talking about this idea of topical approach, right? So where, you come in once a week and you do a session and then you go out. While that is great for awareness and information giving, is it really the best collaboration model even to, educate children and to enable them to protect themselves or, to learn better? We don't know, probably that doesn't work. So the way I look at it from a child mental health and child development perspective, we collaborate to generate material and content and deliverables and everything. And then we really need to give a second level thought to who's going to be doing this and how do we integrate this within the school curriculum, rather than this being something that some X person comes and does a certain number of days a year.
Thank you for stealing my next question. And if I may ask, if we can elaborate further, who should be the actual collaborators? Because from a person who's into child psychiatry, whom do you think will be the best motivator for the students whom the students can respond to?
Well, I always like to draw upon my own experiences at school. I think I was very, very fortunate to go to a boarding school in Dehradun. And I'm just going to say it was Welham Girls School. So I studied there, and I think it was every time I think about, how do I talk to this child or what do? I very often think of how did my teacher speak to me, or what is it that felt right? And because a lot of issues that happen, especially if I can restrict to the school setting, a lot of issues that happen there, right? So children not being able to cope with studies, children bunking classes, jumping out of school boundaries, boyfriends, girlfriends, and like my vice principal used to say, kissing cousins, country cousins, so there are a whole lot of things that happen on every campus. Now, and at that time, I don't really remember that, there were a lot of people coming into the school to tell us things, but I do remember that our teachers would respond to those situations. So teachers were able to, kind of normalize certain things, to say that, okay, I'm happy to speak with you. Like, you were saying, I'm happy to speak with you when you're ready to talk about it. Or, this is something that we must get around to pretty quickly so that we can figure out together what will work. So I think at the end of the day, the delivery of all of these things can best happen within the school community. And the school community in itself has to be powerful enough to address, because a lot of these skills, right, they come under the larger rubric of life skills. And life skills are not taught, but they are learned. And what makes us learn life skills? Our experiences make us learn life skills. And where do those experiences happen? Those experiences happen every day, right?
So, Monica, in schools, we pay more weightage to education or life skills?
That's a.
And how do you balance it out?
So if I look at the new education policy and then, the curriculum, the NCF and the NEP, which has just come up, life skills, nurturing life skill is the only thing for which a teacher must be getting into the school. But, how do you look at it? So I want to tell this to people that ये एक साल का project नहीं है. It doesn't happen that I get into the class, take care of a child for 356, 365 days, and then, oh, life skill nurtured, done, tick. No, that is not going to happen. It's a long project of 14 years or 18 years, which has to get into the schools. And as ma'am was saying, the concentric circles of teaching, the safety. Actually, if I don't know how many teachers are here in this audience, how many of you are actually there in the schools, and how many of you have opened the NCRT books? So the ones that we use, each and every chapter has some part of these skills in a way that wherein we are talking about talking to children, sharing our feelings, talking about the security, talking about the environment, talking about how the elders, how I may be communicating with the elders. So everything is there. Everything is there in the in our, what do you say, the structure of a country. Whether it is NCRT giving you the laws, it is the structures created in the books, everything is there. It's how do I say, how much am I willing to explore and practice that in the school. So अगर ये कहें कि खाली मेरा रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ये है कि मेरे को जाके करिकुलम डिलीवर करना है, तो I don't think, I know I might be saving the teachers fraternity here, but generally teachers don't do that. At the back of the mind you have everything to be done. But एक चीज हमें ये देखना होगा कि जब हम करिकुलम डिलीवर कर रहे होते हैं एज अ टीचर, तो लाइफ स्किल्स बाय द वे नर्चर हो जाती हैं. लाइक ऑल ऑफ अस सिटिंग हियर, हमारी कुछ लाइफ स्किल्स तो नर्चर्ड हैं. डिसीजन मेकिंग हम करते हैं, प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग करते हैं, क्रिएटिव थिंकिंग करते हैं, क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग करते हैं, एम्पैथी, we have empathy, we have humane factor. But what is the need of an hour as of now is me standing in the classroom saying ki, okay, now today I am looking at empowering critical thinking, and how would my curriculum fit into that. Now that is a kind of a twist, or is what we required from the teacher fraternity as of now. How will that be done? No, that's a good, I think that will still take some more years जहाँ पे change होना चाहिए. तो ये नहीं कह सकते आप कि खाली curriculum पढ़ाने जाते हैं हम.
So I guess as to how it will be done, Dr. Manjeer might give us insights. He, as a content creator for the executing the work across the country, how challenging it is, because in different regions, different things work.
So I think it's a great question to answer. Our experience of working and taking our content pan India through different models. So either through kind of curriculum integration in national curriculums like Aishman Bharat, which has currently included content on safe touch, unsafe touch, integration of safe touch, unsafe touch in the NSAFE framework. So I think there are different levels of work, which starts from grassroots to policy formulation. I think can really impact what is actually getting to that last mile child. Yeah. So when we talk about, I think so collaboration at that level, and I'm bringing collaboration here because that's what we are focusing on. Collaboration at the level of policy formulation, where we are being able to converse with different ministries and get and spoke about while NCRT has all of it. How can we kind of really institutionalize abuse prevention, person safety, social emotional learning into the school curriculum? And I think Isha also spoke about the same thing. How can we really institutionalize it? How can our content be such developed where for a teacher it's not an add-on life skill question at the end of the textbook? It's about what we are transacting and we're living. I think that living bit of life skill is very, very critical. So the content can tell you, okay, this is something that you need to talk about safety to children. You need to create a safe space. But if you're not creating a safe space for the child to come and tell you that I don't want to do maths today, how would you create a safe space for that same child to tell you that I'm facing an unsafe situation? So you need to, and this is what one experience that we have had through our evaluations, that when it's teachers doing it, teachers also feel challenged to kind of like they feel challenged to kind of come out of this one role which is expecting them to be authoritarian to another role which expecting them to empathetic moderator and facilitators of sessions, which is very different from curriculum delivery. So at times when we were talking about external people coming in, what we have also seen when external people come in, because they're starting from that zero, children actually don't have really a baggage of this teacher. Agar मैं जाके भी इनको कुछ बोलूँ ना, she will never believe me because she always labels me as a mischievous child. Children don't necessarily start with that stand. They feel that अच्छा ये दीदी तो आया है, दीदी तो इसके बारे में बात कर रहे हैं जो कोई मुझे कभी बात नहीं किया है. So maybe this is the person I can really go and talk to. So I think there is a pros and cons in both side. Obviously, this process cannot be scaled or cannot really be integrated because obviously it has a limitation of how many times can people go into. Our evaluation shows at least you need to go 3 times in terms of abuse prevention, at least 3 times in a child's educational career to go back and talk to them. And we as an organization, wherever we are doing direct work, we are at least reaching out 3 times in that child's lifetime in the school system. And in that 3 times, what we are also seeing, like some of our data, it's in nascent stage, but it's showing that the first time you go, you have spoken about it, the children have come to speak about it, maybe about an abuse by a stranger. The second time when we have gone, the same child have come back to tell you about something more deeper happening in the family because the trust has just got enhanced. And the child has seen that when he or she is disclosed in the first time, they've got the help that they have given. And I think your collaborator or the fact that children you are working with are your greatest collaborator. We have seen at least one child talk to another 6 children. We have seen, because Arpan's model is about prevention and intervention together, we have seen one child coming and telling us, but Didi, that friend of mine was also talking to me and she would also like to come to counseling. Can we just call her? So I think when you create that safe space, I think you create content around it, but you also develop skills for facilitating it. Because unless you develop skills for facilitating that safe space, the content will fall flat. So I think your collaboration will have to start at your grassroots level with institutions and organizations to train people to kind of conduct social emotional learning curriculum because it's different from academic curriculum. At the level of policy making, curriculum integration, you need to work with ministries to how to get it into the system so that you can then create a module which is being integrated, which is scalable, which is audited, which is quality control, and you're also being able to create a trauma-informed safe space in the school system in itself where children have safe responders, where they don't hesitate to kind of go and talk to somebody if they feel uncomfortable and unsafe. And the teachers also equipped enough to kind of know what to do about it. So you have child safeguarding policies in the system, which helps teachers to exactly know if there is a disclosure, what do I do about it? A lot of times teachers hesitate to talk about it because they feel if I am the one talking about it and if there is a disclosure, it's all about me. Now I am in this system. The child has told me, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I can take it to my immediate supervisor, if the principal will listen to me, whether the family will help me out. So then the teacher feels that I become responsible of this disclosure and I hence don't want to even get into that space of talking about it. So we need to also understand that we need to create support system for the child, but we also need to create support system for the teacher to function in that school. So that entire institution becomes trauma informed.
So through the conversation, what we derive is that the child is at the centroid of the triangle, and he or she has got three spaces at three extremes. One would be the faculty, the teacher or the school. The other could be the parent, and the third one could be the external agency. So it brings us to the question about the chicken and egg story. Who came first? So what should be? I know there cannot be an ideal approach, but what could be a balanced approach towards the child, because we need to nip the bud at an early stage. The floor is all yours.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just taking down some notes as we talk. It's very interesting, when you look at the, when did schooling start? Is there a history to the entire concept of schooling? Have children always gone to school? Or is it something? And it was very interesting to me that the history of schooling is actually not that old, right? And the entire concept of the need for schools and the need for children to be in spaces of learning came about, probably not more than 6 decades, but it's not it's not since the beginning of civilization or whatever. And if you remember, even in the Indian system itself, gurukuls and other things used to exist before the modern schooling system existed, right? Which largely is an imitation of what the British left behind. So, and the term schooling has very often been used with a phrase that's called loco parentis. And loco parentis basically means in place of parents. So where the parents are not around the child, the school is around the child, right? And they're meant to function in a parental role. So I have two, thoughts to kind of complement everything else that has been said. One is that, when we look at parents and parenting skills and parenting styles, and we say that, democratic will work better than all the other styles, I think when we prep teachers, to be facilitators of learning, not just teachers, teachers are facilitators of learning. Children learn on their own, by the way. You don't have to teach children. Like ma'am was saying, that you go to a class of 4-year-olds and you realize इन्हें तो पहले से ही curriculum तो already आता है, अब उसके आगे का बताना है, right? So children will learn on their own. You have to facilitate their learning. So what style you choose to do this in needs to be, a very, very important aspect of, teacher training programs, and, how teachers actually go through their cycles of developing themselves, just like every other professional does. So when I was being trained to be a psychiatrist, it was not just about learning diagnostic criteria and figuring out kisko kaun si dawai deni hai, but you have to learn communication skills. You have to learn, how do I engage my patient better? What do I do to retain them and follow up, and so on. So similarly, I'm sure that a whole set of extracurricular skills are also part of the teacher training curriculum. So I think a lot of, you spoke about the roadblocks that teachers face in terms of when children come with disclosures and then this teacher doesn't know what to do or how to respond. So probably there too, we have to start at, the beginning of that teacher's journey, and, realize and, kind of imbibe these things as they go along. So we're looking at, not just teaching and imparting of information and imparting of skills, but we're also looking at what is the teaching culture of, this particular school. What is the school culture? Just like we look at family cultures, right? Just like we look at, what ma'am was beautifully describing, the openness of parents and the, democratic culture within the household. So a similar approach needs to be used to enhance these aspects in the school community as well.
So can I add here? So what I want here is the one part of accountability किसकी है? जब हम child protection बोलते हैं तो accountability किसकी है? अगर ये इन भागों में बढ़ जाएंगे कि collaborator or maybe teachers or maybe parents, then the whole purpose get defeated. So what I always think is that I am not, so it's not like बच्चा बीच में है, parent इधर है और teacher इधर है, collaborator या other organizations इधर है. It's like we are all on one side. So I would, as a school, would be creating a partnership with while I'm doing a collaboration. So when a collaborator walks into the school, if they're walking from a mindset that these teachers, they are not doing enough, we are supposed to make a difference, then the goal of the project gets defeated. How would it be that I'm a collaborator, I'm an organization? Why I can say that, क्योंकि मैं दोनों साइड में रह चुकी हूँ. Around 27 years of teaching, and then around 5 years of being a organization that actually fights for the cause of eradication of child sexual abuse. So when I enter a school and I tell the teacher, look, I am there, you have my back. मैं आपके पीछे खड़ी हूँ, मैं आपको ट्रेन करूंगी, आप ये कर सकते हो, आप कर रहे हो. Just those little bit of more nuance, how to actually deliver, how to ensure that age appropriate information is being given to the child. If that is done by the collaborators, I think our job is 90% done. Because imagine there's so many schools in a country, and if every teacher is a child eradication of child sexual abuse, like a warrior standing in a classroom, I don't think हमारा existence मतलब खतरे में थोड़ा सा बहुत हो जाएगा, but ठीक है. When that's the bigger goal, the most beautiful goal. So I think accountability would be a big factor, and being partners for me, it'll be like that.
So, while we are talking about collaborators, how do you think the youth of this country can collaborate with this cause? Yes.
Okay, I think the youth of the country has huge potential to contribute. I think they're growing up with up to be a generation who at least have started thinking about child protection, child safety, child rights much ahead than we have started thinking about. So they're much ahead of us in kind of even thinking and realizing. I think spaces are really opening up. Spaces are really opening up where you are kind of coming together, talking about it much more openly than we have done 20 years back. And the youth of the country also, what we believe, I think one thing that at Urban we always talk about is if we are raising a generation of person safety champions, I think we're raising a generation which is not only themselves becoming custodians of their own safety and safety of others, but we are kind of creating a generation which will go ahead and ensure safety of children coming ahead. And we are also stopping intergenerational trauma somewhere because we are kind of doing healing work simultaneously. So, as an organization, as somebody who's kind of trying to kind of work in this field for so many years, we always feel that prevention and healing need to work together. Because I think with healing, you're also working on prevention, and with prevention, you're also working on healing. So it kind of goes hand in hand. Our prevention model, when it talks about it's not my fault, I think children, that the response that we get from children, that this is the first time somebody came as told us that it was not our fault that I was being abused. I think that's where you're starting healing. And when you're doing healing work in your counseling work, you're really talking to the child so that the child doesn't get victimized or the child doesn't re-offend in case of sexual misbehavior. So you were stopping sexual misbehavior themselves. I think the youth of the country has all of this with them. I think there's a lot of convergence happening at the global platforms, a lot of convergence happening at the grassroots level. So I think the youth of the country has the potential to kind of take it ahead, really work in a space and bring in and make it a reality of a world where children are free and safe and happy. I think we all want that. It's just that we need to come together to achieve it.
So, Dr. Isha, can the youth be motivated, or how do you think can the is the youth ready to take on these challenges?
Yeah, William Dalrymple. I'm sure you've all heard of the famous author. So he was receiving an award for one of his works. I forget the details, which award, which book, etc. But one of the reporters asked him that, how did you decide to write about this? And I mean, he does, he's part-time journalist, part-time author, that kind of a person. So they asked him that, how did you decide to write about this, and what made you so motivated, and why did you want to do? So he said, look, I don't know the answers to all of those questions. All I was doing was fulfilling an assignment that I was given, and that got translated into a book. And probably because I did my job well, everybody liked the book and so on. So I think when you say that, how should the youth be part of this and what do we have to do? I think it's, so what are the youth of this country doing? Okay, the youth of this country are in different careers. They are prospective parents. They are, they're already citizens, but obviously, middle-aged citizens and senior citizens and so on. So, I think the idea is that because child safety and child protection is everybody's responsibility, everybody's accountable for it. I think it's about doing our individual jobs in our individual spaces well enough. So if you're in a digital space, if you're in the software or the IT industry or whatever, everything that we speak about digital risks, what kind of accountability does that space take, so that everything that goes out there in the digital world, everything comes also from that lens, not just from software development and IT development and so on, but also comes from, is this going to be okay for a 4-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old? And am I taking the age gap or the age diversity that's going to be interacting with this platform into account? So that's what the youth in that space do. Similarly, the youth in the teaching space, take up the accountability in that space. So I think it's, at the end of the day, it's really about doing your job well and doing your job with the lens of child protection in mind, and not necessarily, working in a space that's very outside and, so on.
So, doing the job well, Monica, what would you like to say? Because in the education system for over 25 years, you are in and out daily with the students. And if some external agency comes in, a youth, let's say a 25-year-old comes in and tries to speak on this topic, what would your thoughts be on this? Because, like, come on, he's just another fellow who's out of the education system and he's just giving time to the society for this cause. is it really going to go well with the system?
So, when you say that, what should the youth be doing? Can the youth take this on? So, I started this job of like the basic. I came into this, uh, a program of having conversations with children about their body safety and child sexual abuse just around 5 years back. Uh, but I consider myself as youth in that thing. So कितने साल की थी मैं? शायद 13 साल की थी जब मैंने अपने लाइफ में चाइल्ड सेक्सुअल अब्यूज एक्सपीरियंस किया था. उससे पहले मुझे किसी ने बताया नहीं था. नोबडी हैज एवर टोल्ड मी दैट दिस इज समथिंग विच इज इनअप्रोप्रिएट. आपको कोई ऐसे छू नहीं सकता. इसके बारे में बात करनी है. ये हमें किसी ने नहीं बताया. 13 साल से 13 years, it took me how many? Around 38 years. I did a course, 40 years. I was around 40 years of age. That one incident has made me something, like, because I was not able to stand up for myself. पूरी जिंदगी में बहुत सारे ऐसे situations आए where I could not stand for myself. And this was there at the back of my mind. At the age of 38, 40 years, when I actually became a warrior to talk about child sexual abuse, as you said, I healed. मैंने अपने आप को हील किया. तो मैं तो यूथ को बोलूंगी कि अभी बैठ के ना आप अपने आप को देखो कि आप जिंदगी में कहाँ रुक रहे हो. अगर आप, if you stopping somewhere, something is stopping you, go back and see where in your childhood something must have happened. Has an abuse ever like shaped you in the way what you might be now? So if the youth really wants to do something, want to grow out and be something different, there is no other way. और कोई तरीका ही नहीं है. You have to stand up for yourself. अभी नहीं तो मेरी उम्र में आके खड़े हो जाएंगे. But I am happy that I stood up for myself at the age of 40. I'm 53 years old, and I'm very happy. I go to the sessions and I lead sessions, whether it is a parent, teacher, and I have people coming, my age women coming and telling me that this happened to me long back, and then they heal and then they go forward. So और कोई तरीका नहीं है. I mean, I'm very happy that so many young people are sitting here and ready to have this discussion. I have two sons at home, 27 and 25. I can talk anything under the sun with them. Talking about bodies, talking about body safety, talking about changes. How do you feel about partners, relationships? तो ये हम लोग की उम्र में आपको ऐसे 3-4 लोग ही मिलेंगे बात करते हुए. But if the younger generation starts this early, imagine hundreds and thousands of children starting, young people talking about it. So the whole taboo will break. So you can't ask this question. You can't say, can the youth? So I would say there is no other choice. If you want to have freedom without monitoring, then it's time that you take the responsibility of your safety and the safety of your environment and start having this conversation as early as possible. So that is how I would put it.
Just complementing what she said and the question that you were asking, that if a 25-year-old walk into a session where there are 40-year-old teachers or 50-year-old teachers, principals, will they even validate them? And we have a band of young trainers at Arpan who goes and does that every day. And the answer to it is yes. People do validate. It depends on what you are bringing to that space. And when you're bringing to that space and creating a space, again, a safe space for everybody to talk about their own inhibitions, their growing up challenges, their own socializations, which are creating hindrances. And we have amazing cases, like I can talk about many, but just to tell you one, we were doing a session in one of the remote villages in Chhattisgarh, and it was a group of teachers and principals, master trainers in the room, and one of these young trainers was kind of training them. And this teacher who stands up and say, but I don't think we should be doing this. This will rob children of innocence. And I'm really perturbed about how can you even talk about doing this in the classroom. So the facilitator kind of spoke to him, saying that, okay, yeah, let's discuss this separately. I understand your inhibitions, where it is coming from, What can we do better? And all of that happened, and he was resistant throughout the session, and we gave him the space to kind of verbalize whatever he was feeling. At the end of the session, we just told him that you've gone through this 2-3 days sessions now. These are the materials that we're going to talk to children about. Let's go through it and again connect back. And when we connected back with the sir, and we've gone through that entire material, and he told us that even before you reached out to us, I spoke to my children in my classroom and the parents in the community, and today I know what I was not doing today. So I think transformations do happen, change do happen. All of us have grown up with our own understanding of what needs to be done and what can be done. I think we just need to create those safe spaces, and that's why I started my conversation saying that when we are collaborating, we need to be empathetic, we need to be listening, we cannot be judgmental, we cannot have a top-down approach saying that okay, you don't know, you don't care. People do care, people do understand. It takes time for people to come to a position to talk about private parts openly, to talk about sexuality openly, and it's very understandable and normal because none of us has been spoken about it when we were children, when we were growing. So it just takes time. I think our youth in that way are step ahead of us because they have been exposed to these conversations at their homes, in their schools, much more than any of us in our generation have been. And I find today's youth kind of much more articulate, being knowing where they want to head. And I think we have that support system being developed, ecosystem being strengthened, where this space has been created where we all can act.
So to sum it up, if all the panelists agree, we can say that collaboration is the key for the future.
Truly, truly. I
And
agree.
before we close, I would like to call upon the youth of the country and just listen out to them to, if they have any questions on the discussion we were just having.
You know what makes me scared now when you say that youth walking into a classroom and talking about sexuality and people like me as principals and teachers sitting and listening to them. I have the other side of it. When I walk into the class of maybe those 15 years and 16 years, वो बोलते हैं इनसे बात करनी पड़ेगी हमें. So I think it's both the sides, but yeah. But let me tell you, it's easier to talk to the youth, but it's really difficult to talk to people who might be, like somebody like me, because unlearning is difficult. Making young children learn new things is much easier. But unlearning really takes, it's like turning me inside out is more difficult, I would say. So,
Guys, any questions which you have? Hmm. Yeah, we can come offline during lunch. So, if the panelists would like to sum up, you're most welcome.
so I think let me do that. I mean, everyone can do that. Yeah. So
Everyone can do
how do I feel it? So first of all, how would I sum up is that collaboration is the only way, because everyone in the different silos are doing their job. So a school is doing its job, the teachers are doing their job, and the other organizations like organization where I come from, or the Young India or the Masoom project, they are dedicating their time on something which is more important. So rather than me being सर्वव्यापी सब कुछ अपने हाथ से कर लूं, सब कुछ कर लूं everything, it's better that I am more trained and I am concentrating on education, and I as a school would be ready to collaborate with people who might be gaining certain expertise in that area, because they would make a bigger difference in a very short time. So that is something I would go in for. Now, I would always recommend collaboration here. So especially if coming from the education fraternity, I would certainly do that.
Yeah, I too would completely second that, because I think, especially in the last couple of decades, with the coming in of the internet and the everybody has access to everything. As been there's also been a rapid advancement in every single field. So whether it is content creation or child development models, understanding what kind of approaches work in teaching children and so on. So everything has scientifically advanced. So we now have data to support what works in this sector, what works in this sector, what works in this sector. So I mean, it's but obvious that let's do this together. Why don't we put in our individual expertise together and make this. But I think one of the areas where we're still not collaborating enough, if I can take it forward, is actually figuring out what models work best. I mean, I know that you know I of course have my own ideas based on what we've learned in our work, is that probably delivery through the school systems and through the school communities should be the way to go forward. But honestly speaking, we need more scientific evidence on implementation effectiveness. So what is an effective implementation? We know what to say, we know who to say it to, but are we saying it correctly? Are we saying it in a manner that's going to stand the test of time, and that will be in a group? So when we're talking about prevention and those paradigms, not about therapeutic intervention as such. So I think that would be the way to go forward, and certainly not without collaboration.
I completely second that. I think evidence-based model is the way forward to kind of even come and collaborate. And what we've seen when we have evidence-based models, I think it also gives people the hope that if we collaborate, we are working towards a cause. And then there is a pathway that's being shown, and there is a very specific mission-driven path, and that can get crafted because we have already seen results. So I completely second that on. I just would take a minute to talk about just kind of appeal to everybody in this room and the youths in the room for sure. We were talking about collaboration, and would kind of appeal to you that the Child Safety Week is coming ahead. YI has been part of it every year. This is a collaborative movement that happens from 14th of November for a week, and all organizations working on child safety kind of join it. It's again coming up. So I think please do participate, play your part in it, because that's the only way to go forward.
Thank you. So I would like to now call upon Sangeeta and Prateek to present the mementos to our panelists.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Thank you so much. Nice conversation. Thank you.
So we do have a video, a small video that we would like to play, especially on the collaboration. The video is from the executive director, Mr. Ian Drennan. He's a part of the organization called the We Protect Global Alliance. We are partners with them. They are based out of London. Again, he couldn't be here, so he has given us a video message. Can we play, please?
Hello, my name is Ian Drennan, and I'm the Executive Director of We Protect Global Alliance, which is the largest and most diverse international multi-sector network focused on ending child sexual abuse online. We bring together experts from government, civil society, including young Indians, the private sector, and intergovernmental organizations to develop policies and solutions to end child sexual abuse online. India is and will always be a key focus for us. It has a huge child and youth population that is going online at a tremendously rapid rate. I want to talk now about our global threat assessment, which we launched on 17th of October this year, and it's our most comprehensive overview to date of the scale and nature of the threat from child sexual abuse online. It identifies three key areas for action. And I would urge everyone listening and present in the room to think about how they can contribute to moving these forward. Firstly, invest more in public health approaches, prioritizing prevention. So focusing on investment that targets the whole community, not just in responding to the threat after it's happened. Secondly, centering children's rights and perspectives in designing interventions. If not, we'll see gaps in the response. And finally, supporting effective, globally aligned legislation that recognizes that this is an international cross-jurisdiction crime and aiming to make it tech neutral and valuable into the future, and particularly valuable in India, as the Digital India Bill will shortly come out for consultation. Thank you very much.
So here, the same kind of thoughts being echoed by everybody, not just who are present here as panelists. We hear globally that we have to collaborate. We have to talk about this more often. As you know, we have an equal bunch of teachers here, partners here, and also college students. What we request you to do is talk about it. Talk about it more openly about these things. The difficult conversations have to begin somewhere. So that's where we help ourselves. That's where we help each other. So we talked about, how, we can create awareness to school children, how we can support each other. We're next moving on to an interesting conversation where if you ask all of us in a particular right setting, probably more so women and more so men as well now. So we'd like to break that myth that we would like to admit that, yes, I was also abused, right? So sometime when I was a kid, when I was in the space, when I was, by somebody, not all the time we open up. It takes a lot of courage. How she opened up, just on the stage. Brilliant, ma'am. Brilliant. It takes a lot of courage. Thank you for saying that in front of all of us. So it is. Yeah, round of applause, please. So it is. So we would like to hear the other side as well. How do you come out and talk about it? How do you heal? So we do have our next panel exactly talking about it. I think all of us can relate to it irrespective of age. So it's going to be an interesting conversation. Dhruv, over to you.
Look, I think before I start, can I have a huge round of applause for the youth that is sitting here? Guys, you are fantastic. I think taking interest in the topic like this at this age means a lot to us. I think, guys, this session is dedicated to all the youngsters, all the teachers who are working in and around the ecosystem of Masoom. And guys, we have a story to share. And before I officially introduce Lokesh, can I please have him here? Guys, we have with us Lokesh Pawar, who is a writer by profession, poet by passion, and a spoken word artist by accident. He's a queer male sexual abuse survivor and now passionately advocates child safety. He publicly came out with his sexuality and his abuse back in 2019 and has since spoken to thousands of students and parents through public forum events. His story has been covered by a lot of print and digital media. His goal now is to ensure that no kid has to go through anything that he has experienced. He currently works as the social strategy and content manager at Chroma, a Tata enterprise. And before I ask him to share his story, since he is a poet, I thought I would like to start this with a quote. And let me tell this, Lokesh. You are not a victim for sharing your story. You are a survivor setting the world on fire with your truth. And you never know who needs your light and your warmth. Guys, when we also started this project at YI, we thought that we will just change life of a single child or a single person. And that's when it all started. It all triggered for us. And I would like to begin with your story. Tell us your story, your journey, how it all happened, and probably we can take it forward from there.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. And it's so nice to see everyone trying to sort of understand the intricacies of child safety. Such wonderful speakers before me. And I think every person that came up and spoke about something has sort of added to what I already knew and sort of has given me a new perspective on the conversation. Thank you, Dhruv, for being so kind and for reciting that poetry. It really means so much. Um, if I have to directly sort of dive into my story, I can simply tell you that I was first abused when I was 6 years old, and that went on for the next 10 years. Over time, I was so machined into the process of being abused that I thought that everyone was sort of living this life of duality, because we don't, like all of the wonderful people mentioned, that we don't have conversations around abuse. And I'm not talking about conversations at summits or events. I'm talking about dinner table conversations that happen with your friends, with your family folks. Because of the lack of all of those things, I felt that probably everyone was going into a room at some point in their life, and was sort of experiencing the same thing that I was experiencing and coming out of it and living a very normal life where we don't talk about what happens in the dark room. And likewise, for about 10 years, I was taken by a close relative, always into a dark room, asked to keep it a secret. And it sort of over time became, like I mentioned, a process where I'd never questioned whether or not this should happen with me, whether I should say no, whether I should be okay with this. And because of that, so many years sort of went by, and only at a very later stage, when you grow up, and as young kids, when we're in school especially, I'm sure everybody at some point has, in their school days, talked about sex. We were very notorious, very naughty as kids also when we grow up. So being in schools, you hear from friends about different kinds of things, body parts, your relationships, your partners, etc. And in all of those conversations, the one thing that I'd heard in common is, of course, the act of sex. And I sort of related to it, but there was this one thing that I could not understand, could not relate, and could not sort of connect with my story, was consent. When everybody spoke of mutual willingness to be in that act of sex. And that's when I sort of started questioning what really happened and what went down with me. I spent about 4 years, and we had these back in school, these computer classes, this one lecture where we would be taken to the lab, computer lab, and there was this one corner computer at the back of the lab where I would sit and sort of, because that was the only source of internet access for me. So I remember going on the computer, typing some keywords because I didn't know abuse at that point. So I went and searched a lot about sex, and I sort of, from that, I landed upon consent. From consent, I landed upon romance. From all of those things, I ended up on abuse. And that's when I realized, and when I was sort of reading about abuse, I don't think I came across a story like myself. But when I say that, I mean a story that spoke of another male victim. I read gazillion stories about females. I read women being abused, girl child being abused, raped. All of that was there. But I could not come across a story that spoke of the male gender. While abuse is a genderless story, now that we've sort of grown into the conversation and have sort of understood the gravity of it, but back in the day, I never knew that, oh, this could possibly happen with me as well. Let alone possibly happen with me, understand in the first place that this is what has happened with me. So when I learned that, it took me about 4 years to completely understand what sort of had happened, and then come to terms with the fact that healing was secondary for me. For me, primary was acceptance. I feel the greater thing in life, especially for us victims and survivors, is to accept the fact that you've been through this. Because the world will tell you otherwise. You know, the world will want to make you believe that, oh, it was your mistake, that you must have done something to have this, to have gone through this experience. And when I was sort of coming to terms with it, while I was still going through the abuse at that point, also, I didn't have the courage to say no. And it took me another year to sort of gather that courage. It took me another year to tell myself that I have to at some point stop this, otherwise I'll just still be going through the same, and it'll be another 20 years and I'll still be sort of figuring this out, and there will be no end to this. So yeah, pretty much about 15, 16 years I've sort of dealt with it, and had, you know, sort of at some point come to a conclusion that I had to stop this myself, because there was no other way. Like ma'am said also, to sort of stand up for yourself is the most important part of all.
I think extremely sorry for what happened with you. While we have a lot of theoretical answers onto how did you tackle it, but we really want to know how you really tackled the whole situation, and how you kind of, you know, rose above it.
It's, to be very honest, all the conversations that we've had before me, they're very theoretical discussions, right? They're all, it's good for the textbook. But when I actually have to do that in reality, it's not easy for me to consume all that knowledge and convert that into actual conversations for myself in my own head. So, as a victim and now as a survivor, I think what's important is to just have very basic conversations with people, with and not keeping in mind that, oh, are you an abuser, are you a survivor, are you a victim, just very very base level conversations, because I'm not going to be able to understand all of these things while I'm going through something so grave. So the way I sort of came out is just by sort of reading up, because I, like I said, I spent 4 years reading up about this because I had nobody else to talk to about this. While I could have, I had the courage to talk about this, but I did not know what terms to use and how to go up to someone and talk about it. I couldn't just say, "Oh, I got touched," or I thought I couldn't say that, "Oh, I got touched," or "This is what happened," or "I got anally penetrated," or I had to do all of the things that I bled at 7 years of age or whatever. I didn't know the gravity of all of that. So I only understood that when I started reading up. But again, it took me 4 years because everything was so complicated. The influx of information was too much for me to also consume, imbibe, understand, and then sort of process and tell myself, hey, calm down. This is what has happened with you. Had somebody been there for me to simply sit me down and tell me, what has happened with you? Tell me, I'll help you. Maybe the 4 years would have been just 2 days for me. You know, that is what I want people to do, is to move away from all the textual knowledge that we want to impart, but simply sit with people. And I'm talking, like I said, I'm talking about dinner table conversations. Casual conversations will only help you to lead a safer life, in my opinion, because I've lived that journey. And I think while I understand that, talking about it largely on forums, etc., and all of that will help, but that sort of confidence for me to be able to go up to someone in my family or to one of my friends will only come through heart to heart conversations when I sit across the table with you, eating something, for example, or doing just the most basic thing that I do in life. Because I will find comfort in the situation. I will find comfort in you being in that, sharing that situation with me, and maybe then I will open up to you, and you may not be able to help me. That's absolutely fine. But what that will do for me is lessen the burden that I am carrying with myself, I think. And that took me 4 years. So after 4 years, I sort of went to my mother. She was the first. So I started writing actually. That's how I became a writer. Uh, so I started writing a book, and my story got finished in about 15 pages, and I was like, oh god damn, nobody's going to read this 15-page book. So it was very funny, and I shut that, and then I started writing poetry. And while I was writing, it took me a year to write that poetry because there was so much. And then, while the book got over in 15, but the poetry didn't seem to get over. So there was so much that I wanted to put into that. It took me a year to completely be satisfied with the story, with the poetry itself. And through that process, I felt that, oh, wait, I think before I come out publicly, it's important for me to also tell someone in my house. It's important for me to tell someone like my mother. And my parents are pretty open about conversations. They're not the ones who will sort of shut you down or say that, oh, no, we don't talk about all of this at home or whatever. They may not be able to bring up conversations themselves, but they are very open to me going to them and talking about stuff. So uh, I sat my mother down and I told her what had happened. Of course, she cried for hours, and she said one thing, that I'm very sorry that I couldn't be there for you when you actually needed me. But she said, your fight's over now. It's my fight from here on. So I will make sure that I confront the abuser, that I go and file an FIR, that I do what needs to be done for you on your behalf. And I think that was the day when I felt that I had achieved something in life. I don't know what, but I felt like a big burden had been taken off. And I had just sort of done something for myself. And like ma'am said, standing up for myself is the greatest thing of all things in the world. And my mother helped me do that. So when I say that it's important to find comfort in the most honest, the most basic situations, it was that for me. I was just sitting down with my mother. I was having dinner with her, and that's when I told her. And I think I could not have told her at walking wherever. I had to, sort of find comfort in the most honest place, in the most honest way. And I think that helped me to come to terms with my abuse.
Funnily, nobody would agree, but when a lot of these cases happen, the abuser is kind of from a known vicinity. The abuser is kind of the known person who will uh, against whom the actions are to be taken. But taking your answer forward, sort of the dinner table conversation or the heart to heart over the table conversation. We just had a beautiful session before ours with Ashwini ma'am about a lot of parenting terms. But honestly, that was my next question, that your mother reacted so supportive. But how did your friends react, or how did your relatives react to this situation? Because kind of, your mom dad would agree, or your mom dad would believe in their own, son or daughter. But every time the scenario is not the same. Relatives would sort of blame you, or your friends would start pulling your leg. How was the whole situation for you?
It was actually pretty weird, awkward, of course, all of those things. When up until I sort of came to terms with all of that with myself and with my mom and my dad and my brother, that was fine. But when that sort of escalated, went out of the four walls that we lived inside, that was a little overwhelming for me, I think, because I remember uh, getting on a call with the abuser's mother, and my parents were there, and so the first step we did was speak to them, confront them as upfront, as the survivors, from the survivors end. And we simply told them that this is what has happened, and we'd like to file an FIR, and we'd like to take this case ahead legally or whatever. There was a lot of pushback from the other end, saying that, but like, he shut up for 10 years, right? So, I'm sure he must have liked it. He must have enjoyed it for so many years to let it happen for so many years. But the one thing that they don't understand is that I did not know that it was wrong for me to have not made noise about it at that point. Had I known about this back then, I may have screamed and yelled and done whatnot, because I am very boisterous like that also. So I would, of course, make noise about it. if I knew about it. Um, so I think that entire situation was a little bit tricky for me. Uh, a lot of anxiety attacks had come in at that point and all of that. But I think, unfortunately or weirdly enough, that's sort of part and parcel of the process where you sort of have to continuously remind yourself and surround yourself with very, very supportive, positive people. Thankfully, I had great parents, great family, great friends also. Um, People talk about education a lot, that you need to be able to be completely educated to support and talk about such conversations. I don't think that's absolutely true, because I'll tell you, most of my family, extended family members, are not educated. They're all 10th pass, 10th fail, 12th pass, 12th fail, aunties and uncles or whatever. They were the first ones to come forward and tell me that, hey, you know what, in a very passionate, emphatic manner, तू बस बता कब किधर कब जाना है, हम सब देख लेंगे. Something, I mean, it's a weird thing to say to someone, but that feels so powerful. You feel so good that there are so many people with the lack of knowledge yet ready to support you and yet ready to believe in your story. Because support is one, but when someone agrees with you and says that, yes, I believe, without having to question you and your story, that as a victim and a survivor, I think is the greatest comfort that I think I found over time, with friends, with family members, etc. I think, yeah.
That's really great to know. But if I may ask, uh, have you recovered really from the trauma that you faced?
I don't think, okay, this is my opinion. I don't think a survivor can completely heal in life. It is an ongoing process. It's not a 2-day job. It's not a 10-year job. I think it's an ongoing process that goes on throughout your life. Like I mentioned previously also, that acceptance is greater than healing. For me to be able to feel calm with my truth, because if I am not able to agree and accept my truth in all honesty and in its entirety, then I'm not going to be able to let myself and allow myself to heal and comfort myself with my story. So today, I've completely accepted my truth in my past, but I'm not completely healed. That is for sure. I am in the process of healing. It's been a couple of years, with a lot of help, with a lot of therapy, with a lot of conversation, with a lot of this. I've pushed myself from being someone who would quietly sit in the corner to being someone who now sits ahead of people and talks on stage and shares their story. So yeah, I think it's an ongoing process, not just like a 3-step process that 1, 2, 3 and you've healed.
Trust us, when this session was being curated, we all think that you are the bravest guy. For sure, for sure. No, no, we really mean that. But in your case, or in most of the cases that I previously said, that abusers are, in 80 or 90% of the cases, abusers are from the known background or distant relatives, or so on and forth. Have you ever faced your abuser post you started sharing your, what happened with you, so let's say post 2019, have you faced him, and what are your reactions around him, if at all that thing has occurred?
Unfortunately, yes, I have faced the abuser even post speaking out, because um, I spoke out before the confrontation. I first publicly came out. My story was first shared through the poetry. I performed live in front of 100 people at the Habitat, which is in Bandra Khar, not here. Um, and then my story was shared on Humans of Bombay. Um, I think that is when it sort of struck to me that, oh shit, it's gone out. It's for real now. I mean, you've got to like man up, Lokesh. You can't just now sit on the side and talk about it in like individual conversations. It's about being out there, and it's about sort of taking this head on now. And then we sort of spoke to the abuser and all of that. So in that, I mean, it may sound very short as a process, but it was a very long period. So unfortunately, I had to see them a couple of times before we had sort of strategized on how we would speak to the abuser and their family and all of that. So it's a little bit tricky. It's very triggering to even know that they're still breathing because, of course, the decision hasn't been taken yet. It's an ongoing process. It's a long legal process, etc. It's like I said, it's also difficult to know that they're somewhere breathing right now. It's very annoying. But it's the way life is, and you have to tell yourself that you are doing the right thing at least. So I am doing the bare minimum for myself, which is standing up for myself and taking the right steps that I think are going to do justice to my story and my life. So yeah, I think pretty much that.
Uh, Taking quote from our previous conversation before this event, he said once, he quoted "एक बार बात करके तो देखो." And when I asked him in detail, by this, what do you mean? Lokesh was encouraged to talk about his story while he or after he watched an episode on the Satyamev Jayate, when I think a male survivor came and shared his story, and from that you sort of had this feeling, that this thing has happened with me also. I should, share this with my parents and all. A question, got struck to my mind, that do you really think that these days our society provides the right environment, knowledge, or support to kids or victims to share their thoughts without hesitation? Have you faced any challenges after you have shared your story?
I think challenges are a part of life. You will always face them, and it's no fun without challenges. I think it's all going to be, if it's going to be vanilla, then it's not going to be fun. So my tattoo says, "No risk, no story." So I think you've got to take risks. You've got to face challenges head on. And likewise, I think my life has thrown several challenges at me, and I think I'm sure everybody faces different various challenges in their own ways and deals with them and copes up in their own ways. Um, when you talk about the right environment, I don't think there is ever a right environment for anything in life. The minute you face something, if you know that it's wrong, you've got to like make the environment and shift people, shift rooms, and shift things, and just get the conversation rolling. Otherwise, you're just going to keep waiting, and be in the waiting for the right time, the right place, the right people, and that's going to take 15 years. I waited for that right time. So I think, and I'm not saying that it was wrong. It was my way to deal with that. But the one thing that I always tell people is that don't wait for the right place, the right people, the right environment. Make the environment apt for yourself, and just say it and just deal with it and talk about it, because that is really going to create the environment that you want, ideally. And like you said, abusers are mostly from the known circle. Largely, yes, but you cannot really tell. There is no really a criteria for an abuser that, oh, only a certain set of people can be abusers. Abusers could be anyone, right? Somebody walking on the road, somebody sweeping the road, somebody sitting at the most topmost position in a company or whatever, right? It's the mind that's really messed up. It's not a a skill set that you have, that qualifies you to become an abuser. But unfortunately, abuse happens through ease of access. Is when, for example, a parent provides access to even a relative to sort of touch. So these days, I mean, the newer parents, the younger parents, when you touch kids, they tell you, oh, don't touch them, ask for permission. Even to do this, when you go to small kids, oh, very cute and all that, that is also wrong in actuality. In reality, it's not fair, because ये यहाँ से यहाँ कब पहुँच जाएगा आपको पता नहीं चलेगा. And that's the way these people sort of, it's more like a detective study that they do. They try and understand the situation of the victim. They will study how the person reacts around people, how the parent reacts to certain situations. Is the parent providing access to the kid? And likewise, when the kid is left alone with them, or when the kid is left alone, when the, like with my story, I was first abused when like I said, at 6, and it was as simple as I was sitting in the hall back in the native, and the person said, "Let's go to the bazaar." Um, so I was like, "Okay, how? I mean, why would I say no? He's my cousin." I was like, okay, let's go. I went to the bazaar, and that sort of comfort was built through that entire journey. And then we got back home, and then they took me to the room. So that was because nobody was there with me at that point. I was left alone at home. Parents had gone out somewhere, and something like that. So it's about sort of ensuring that your kid is not easily accessible to these people, because that person could be anybody. That person could actually be a parent also in some unfortunate cases. Um, so it's actually here that needs to be, this mind has to work in a way where you don't have to think about all of these things. It's and it has nothing to do with education. It has a lot to do with the upbringing. It has a lot to do with the way you look at things in life. And of course, knowing and learning about things is one thing, but reminding yourself and telling yourself that this is not the right thing is even more important, I think. And that is the reason a lot of people get access to kids, and a lot of people are able to do what they are able to do.
Taking this parents' point forward, since you have already underwent the situation, what message would you have for the parents to encourage them to sort of share anything and everything with their kids, so that such type of incidents or situations, can be cautioned, or can be taken care of well in advance? So what message do you have for them?
Okay, so it's pretty simple. I think what we need to do as parents is first educate ourselves. We talk about sending children to these lectures, and like what you guys also do with school kids is you train them. But I think there is nobody that is training the parent also at the same time. And we all say that, oh, let's make the children more educated about this. Let them understand what bad touch, good touch, safe touch, unsafe touch is. But are you really telling the parent also at the same time? That is, I think, something that we don't do generally. Because to be very honest, people don't know a lot of things that are very basic also. And a lot of these parents that reach out to me also and tell me that, oh, your parents are very brave, and your parents are they're great, and they're this. But actually, my parents knew nothing about this. There is no guidebook, in my opinion, that step 1, step 2, step 3, and then you are able to help your kid. It's something as basic as conversation. But I think before that, you need to know a few things about a lot of things about abuse and things related to kids. Um, for example, what terms to use, how to educate. And that is when all these wonderful people that have come up and spoken about curriculum, about ways to educate your kids and all of that, that is what helps parents also to understand first, and then sort of make their kids understand. What I also feel is that more than teachers, parents should take that first step to talk to their kids. Because back in the day when I was growing up, I was also dealing with my sexuality, and my teachers were not that great, honestly. Your fabulous teachers, my teachers were like pretty, like, let me not use words right here. So they were bad, to be very honest. And I say it head on. I don't really, think a lot about that, because they were, to be honest, what I could have been helped. They pushed me more into um, a zone of doubt, a zone of questions, and I fetch answers for myself. And I think, which is why I always tell parents that it's your first step that will help the child the most than anybody else. The reason that my extended family also were so supportive is because I was their blood. Had this been some other kid on the road, they would not have cared so much. It's only when someone that you know directly is when you realize, oh my God, I should be supportive. I should get up and I should help them. But if somebody is walking on the road and comes and tells you, hey, I'm an abuse victim, max, you'll say, sorry, let me know if you need help. But then you will walk off. That is how a basic human with 40,000 things in their head will function and react. If you start dealing with, and if you approach stories, if you approach victims like that, the victims are always going to feel, lost. So when I say that it has to first come to you, then sort of go to the kids, is because if you don't know the gravity of the conversation firsthand, then you're not going to be able to help any other kid that is not your own kid. Which is why I think parents also have now taken the step to learn first and then educate their kids.
Sure. No, thank you for sharing your thoughts and sharing your journey. We have a lot of teachers here in the crowd and some amazing youth that I appreciated just before our session. Any last message to sort of encourage the youth, since they are our future? They are going to be there for the next 40, 50 years. And, uh, you know, uh, a note from your side would make a lot of sense for you because today's youth follow stories. And since we shared an amazing story with them, any last thought with them, please?
I think I'll also touch upon the theme that is
Yes,
the theme
yes,
of the
please.
day,
Yes.
and sort of intertwine both things, is because I'll tell you why. Somehow I feel this is a very tricky conversation when we talk about making the future safe, because the present in itself is so unsafe that we're only focusing on the future that we forget the present. We're not ready to solve the present and heal in this current moment, that because we're so busy talking about the future. So first, I think I would, because it's me sort of addressing the young folks. Deal with your issues first. Address your trauma first, than going out to help others, because otherwise you're going to pass the trauma to the next generation. You will not know how to deal with trauma itself. How on earth can you teach another generation to deal with trauma when you yourself have not focused on dealing with it firsthand? I'm 100% sure there are many abuse victims and survivors in this room, who've, in some form, small, large, have experienced something in their life. But I cannot guarantee you that everybody has started the healing process also, and started acceptance also. Like she said, she at an age, has sort of come to terms. That is what you actually need to do, is to first learn your own life, learn your own truth, accept your own truth, and then go out and help others. Otherwise, it's just you talking words in the air, I think.
I think, guys, summing up this session, this beautiful conversation, thank you so much. And I would like to end this with I think we all should stand up and, let's have a huge round of applause for Lokesh. Thank you so much. And I would like to end this with a quote, especially for Lokesh. I am not what happened to me.